Chapter 2384. That's not necessarily true. Yang was snorted and pulled out the heavy sword on his back. With a few clangs, he hacked at the shackles and broke them. Great sword technique. Even as an enemy, Hoshibai couldn't help but exclaim. The sword in his opponent's hand was so heavy, and he used it as if it were light. He didn't let any of his strength leak out. It was truly admirable. Yang didn't have time to pay attention to him. He hurriedly caught Guijing, who was about to fall. After a careful examination, his expression changed. Not only was he heavily injured, but he was also restrained. Now, he was even weaker than an ordinary person. Uncle Gua, let me unseal your acupoints. Yang's fingers quickly poked at Guijing's body. He had learned a method of unsealing acupoints from the Nine manual and had been taught by Ouyang Feng to reverse the meridians. Logically speaking, most acupoints should be easily unsealed. But now, he had tried several times and couldn't unseal them. Hey, let me try. Hong Qigong also walked over, but he still couldn't unseal Guijing's acupoints. I want to try too. Zhou Badong ran over excitedly, leaving his two opponents behind. Yanghua was so frightened that he hurriedly went to block Ho Shibai and Alandarin. Zhou Badong touched Guijing's body from head to toe, but he still couldn't unseal them. Wuyang Hatai sneered. The Great Khan personally placed the restraints, with the help of Ba Siba and Li Qimei. How can you possibly unseal them? Hong Qigong stopped Zhou Badong from trying again. We can't stay here for long. Let's get them out first, and then we can slowly study them. Yanghua nodded and held Wuyang Hatai. Lead the way. If you do anything out of the ordinary, don't blame me for not showing mercy. Wuyang Hatai frowned, but he still walked forward. Da Wu carried Guijing on his back and covered him with a layer of clothes. Xiao Wu watched from the side. Hong Qigong and Zhou Badong went forward to watch Princess Yaluan and Ho Shibai. After stopping Ho Shibai and Alandarin from fighting, Princess Yaluan said, "I've fulfilled my promise. Now, it's time for you to let him go. We will let you go after we get out. As for your child, you should be able to see him when you return to the mansion," Hong Qigong said. Princess Yaluan nodded and turned to follow behind Yanghua. Ho Shibai and Alan stood on her left and right, protecting her. Hong Qigong gave Zhou Batong a look, and the two of them stood in front of them and behind them to prevent them from making any sudden moves. How could I not be able to unseal his acupoints? Looking at Guijing in front of him, Zhou Batong's hands were itching. He began to think about the acupoint unsealing method he had learned. Suddenly, he remembered the scene when he taught Aunt Ing how to seal acupoints. He shuddered and immediately lost interest in unsealing acupoints. When they left the prison, the guards outside hurried over to greet them. "Greetings, Princess Consort. Greetings, General." Just as Wuyang Hatai was hesitating on whether or not to call for the soldiers to act, a cold and hard object pressed against his lower back. He could only give up and make a sound in response. He then said to Yalun, "This subordinate respectfully sends off Wang Fei." Princess Yaluan nodded. She was anxious to go back and see if Yulongda had returned. She also wanted to end this as soon as possible. She gave Yanghua and the others a look, indicating that they should follow her. Just as they were about to leave the prison, a shout suddenly came from not far away. "Wait!" A group of cavalry arrived in an instant and quickly surrounded them. The leader was an old man with a beard and a leopard's head and round eyes. Princess Yaluan's expression changed. She hurriedly said, "Greetings, second great uncle. Why are you in such a hurry? Is there a military mission?" This man was the Khan's younger brother, Heezer. He had always been known for his bravery. Yanghua, Hong Qigong, and the others immediately became nervous. Although they were highly skilled in kung fu, it was still difficult for them to face an army, not to mention that there was a severely injured Guijing. Heezer sneered. "Yaluan, what are you doing in the prison so late at night?" Princess Yaluan replied, "I'm here to ask about the circumstances of my father's death." Heezer's eyes were like lightning as he looked at Wuyang Hatai. "The Khan has ordered that no one is allowed to visit the prison. Did you ignore it?" Princess Yaluan hurriedly said, "I will apologize to the Khan for what happened today. I hope that great uncle will forgive me. Heezer was unmoved by the other party's soft words. He pointed his spear at Dawu and asked, "What's behind him?" Everyone's hearts were in their throats. Dawu was so nervous that he couldn't speak. Yang's mind was active. He immediately replied, "The prisoner inside is sworn brother of King Tole. Thus, Princess Yaoan has brought some things to see him. These are the leftovers that can't be used inside. Open it and see." How could Heezer be so easily brushed aside after receiving the news? Yanghua and the others looked at each other. They could all see the nervousness in each other's hearts. Only Zhou Badong had a cheeky smile on his face. "Open it." Heezer's voice became stern. Some of the soldiers also walked towards them. Rainbow Literature Network. "All right, I'll open it. Yanghua hurriedly agreed and walked to Dawu's side. As he was about to open it, he gave his companions a look. "I'll open it now." As he spoke, he directly tore off the clothes on top and threw them at the surrounding soldiers. At this point, he couldn't hide it anymore. He could only force his way through. The clothes contained his internal force. When he threw them out at high speed, they were like drops of blood, instantly taking the lives of the soldiers at the front. Someone is breaking into the prison. Capture him. Kill anyone who resists. Heezer was not surprised. Instead, he was happy. He had a son who had died in the army outside the city of Xiangyang. Naturally, he hated Guo Jing to the bone. This time, the Great Khan had captured Guo Jing, but not killed him. He was puzzled. Because of the Golden Knife Emperor's son-in-law, he was worried that the Great Khan would help Guo Jing and Huazheng. He was worried that he wouldn't have a chance to avenge his son. Now that the other party had broken out of prison, he could openly kill him. In addition, he had always been at odds with Brother Meng's bloodline. In the past, he had a dispute with Brother Meng over some land and herdsmen. But at that time, Brother Meng was the crown prince, and he had suffered a great loss. He regarded it as a great shame. This time, he ran into Yalun and actually helped to break into the prison. It was a golden opportunity for revenge. Naturally, his subordinates knew what he was thinking. They all raised their bows and shot at the people in the field. Alan Dyer was furious. "Heezer, the princess is still here." Heezer said coldly, "The princess has colluded with the enemy and is a traitor. Execute her on the spot." As he spoke, a sky full of arrows rained down on everyone in the field. Alan Dyer didn't care about cursing anymore. He quickly called for the palace guards to stand in front of the princess and help her block the incoming arrows. But before he could do so, Hoshibai had already arrived. He could only see his folding fan spinning rapidly in front of him, forming countless fan shadows. He forcefully protected the few feet behind him. "Pretty boy, I underestimated you before." Alan Dyer couldn't help but praise him as he helped. Previously, he saw how easily he was subdued by the mysterious person. Later, he was helpless against Zhou Batong and thought that his martial arts were mediocre. Now, he realized that he had greatly underestimated him. Hoshibai's face darkened. "Shut up. Think of a way to send the princess to a safe place." On the other side, Yanghua and the others also hurriedly blocked the rain of arrows. Zhou Badong and Hong Qigong even wanted to rush over and capture Heezer several times. But the other party came prepared. The soldiers split into 5 layers and took turns shooting arrows. The rain of arrows was dense, and there was also a formation of spears blocking in front of them. How could they rush over? With a scream, Dawu's leg was hit by an arrow. His entire body staggered. If it wasn't for Xiao Wu who hurriedly supported him, he would probably have fallen to the ground with Guo Jing. Yanghua frowned. He knew that this couldn't go on. He picked up his black iron sword and stabbed it into the stone slab on the ground. He pried out a pebble and bounced it up. Then, he used his black iron sword to hit the pebble. The pebble instantly turned into a bullet and shot towards Heezer, who was on his horse in the distance. When Heezer's bodyguard saw this, they hurriedly took out their shields and placed them in front of them. But Yanghua had used all his strength in addition to the weight of his black iron sword. The pebble's power was incredible. It directly pierced through 3 layers of shields and shot towards Heezer's chest. At this critical moment, Heezer hurriedly took out his spear to block his chest. With a loud bang, the pebble shattered, and the spear in his hand also broke into two. He laughed loudly. That's all there is to it. The surrounding soldiers all cheered wildly. Their morale was immediately boosted. Only the bodyguards behind Heezer could see that his hand, which was hidden behind his back, was trembling slightly. His perlicue was bleeding, and he couldn't help but be shocked. It should be known that he was a famous brave general in the army. The other party's pebble still had such power, even after being weakened by multiple layers of shields. If he had been hit directly, what would have happened? Yang sighed. Just now, he had caught Heezer off guard. If he were to do it again, it would be very difficult for him to hit the pebble. Could it be that he would die here today? For some reason, he suddenly thought of Song Qing-shu. Even though he didn't want to admit it, he was the only one who could save them now. Will he borrow the hands of the Mongolians to kill me? That way, there will be no more obstacles between him and Ant. A thought flashed through Yang's mind, but it quickly disappeared. Even though he didn't like Heezer, after interacting with him so many times, Heezer wouldn't do such a thing. At this moment, a figure suddenly rushed towards Heezer. It was so fast that only an afterimage could be seen. The soldiers all pulled out their swords to block the figure, but the figure had rushed from the back of the army. The defense here was much weaker, so how could they stop the figure? In the blink of an eye, the figure broke through the defense of the surrounding soldiers and landed on Heezer's horse. Heezer was shocked, and he hurriedly raised his saber to cut behind him. However, he only felt his elbow go numb. For some reason, he held the saber against his own neck. Everyone stopped. The person who restrained Heezer was naturally Song Qing-shu. Even though he didn't want to expose himself, he couldn't just sit back and do nothing when he saw the situation. So, he took the opportunity to rush out and restrain the commander of the enemy. In the blink of an eye, Heezer was restrained. Everyone on the battlefield was stunned, and the Mongolian soldiers unconsciously lowered their bows. Order them to make way. Song Qing-shu tightened his grip on the saber in his hand. It had already cut through Heezer's skin. Heezer originally wanted to be stubborn, but when he felt the thick sense of death on the cold blade, he had no choice but to compromise. Just as he was about to order his subordinates to retreat, his body suddenly trembled, and then his head drooped weakly. Song Qing-shu was stunned. He didn't think that Heezer was playing tricks, but the two of them were so close, and he immediately noticed that Heezer's pulse had disappeared. How did he suddenly die? Chapter 2385. Song Qing-shu was dumbfounded. He was the scapegoat. He really didn't kill him. This guy looked like a dragon and a tiger. How could he suddenly die like this? He didn't think that anyone could kill someone under his watch. There were no hidden weapons or anything like that. Hecker just died like that. Song Qing-shu had no time to investigate how Hecker had died. He knew that he was in deep trouble now. Previously, he had wanted to take Hecker hostage and then use Princess Yalwen as a hostage so that they could take Yang Guo away first. But now, everyone had seen that he was the one who had killed Hecker. Hecker wasn't just the commander-in-chief. He was also the Khan's younger brother. No matter who he was, his death meant that the soldiers here wouldn't let them go. At this moment, a group of people galloped over. The person in the lead was none other than Na Chun, who had been pursuing Zhao Min in the Riyang mansion. He was the second young master of the Hongjaira family, and also the younger brother of the deceased Hua Chun. There was also a woman in luxurious clothes next to him. It was Kublai's Princess Chabi. Behind her were many masters from the palace. Jinluan Fuang, Xiao Xiangzi, Priest Baisu, and the leader of the Jin Gang faction. They were all familiar faces. What happened here? Nachin didn't expect such a big scene. It looked like two armies were facing each other. Second Son and Princess Yalwen, please help our marshal. These people not only broke into the prison to save someone, but they also killed our marshal. Some of Heezer's bodyguards had already gone to report to Nachin that Princess Yalwen was involved. Heezer had been there earlier, but now that there was no order from above, they didn't dare to act rashly. Breaking into a prison is a capital offense. Princess Yalwen was threatened. Other than her and the people from King Monk's palace, everyone else is to be killed. Na Chan gave the order. The Hongjaira people reacted strongly to Wochen's death. But since Princess Huazhong was involved and the Khan didn't say anything, they could only wait and see. Nachin knew that Guijing used to be the Golden Knife Prince Consort, so he was worried that the Khan would let him go for old time's sake. Now that there was such a good opportunity, he would not let it go. He decided to take advantage of this opportunity to avenge his big brother so that the Khan would not be able to blame him. Upon receiving the order, all the soldiers charged towards Yang Guo and his entourage. Chabai instructed the highly skilled fighters. The battlefield is too dangerous. All of you, go and rescue Princess Yulun. Even though Kublai and Monk had a falling out in the later years, she and Yulun were both from the Hongjiara tribe. In terms of seniority, she was Yulun's aunt. Also, it was because of Yulun that Monk let Kublai go. Yes, Jinlun Fuang and the others saluted and flew towards Yulun. The leader of the Jin Kong school, Taoist priest Bai Shun, and the Xianming elders ran faster than anyone else. They had joined Kublai's side and hadn't done anything yet. Now was the best time to show off. When Yang Guo and the others saw this, they naturally went to capture Yulun. In the blink of an eye, both sides were engaged in a chaotic battle. Yang Guo, I recommended you with good intentions. I didn't think that you would be so ungrateful and do such a rebellious thing. Jinlun Fuang faced Yang Guo directly. He was angry and annoyed. Of course, he didn't dare to mention that Yang Guo was from the recruitment center. He didn't want to cause trouble for His Highness. But at the same time, he wanted to clear his name. People who walk different paths cannot make plans together. Uncle Guo is in danger. How can I just sit by and do nothing? Although Yang Guo said this, he felt a little apologetic. Even though he had been enemies with Jinlun Fuang many times, to a certain extent, they still admired each other. If it wasn't for the fact that they were on different sides, they might have become good friends. Then let's see what we can do. Jinlun Fuang opened up his 5 wheels. One was shot towards Yang Guo, and the other 3 were shot towards Guijing. Despicable. Yang Guo chopped the wheel that was flying toward him in half. He quickly tried to block the one that was shot toward Guijing. Unfortunately, Jinlun Fuang waved his golden wheel in front of him to block it. The weapons of both sides clashed, creating a loud noise. The vibrations caused the bones of the nearby soldiers to rupture. They covered their ears in pain. The 2 of them were also shocked. Electronic book, Room Jinlun Fuang had suffered under Yang Guo's heavy sword before, so he's specially trained in the Dragon Elephant Prajna technique. His internal energy had been trained to a level that surpassed the ancients and dazzled the contemporaries. Yang Guo, on the other hand, had been training with the sword in the ocean for a long time. His internal energy was also extremely fierce. Yang Guo let out a sigh of relief when he saw that the wheels that were shot towards Guijing were blocked by Zhou Badong. He knew that today was a matter of life and death. He didn't dare to hold anything back. He immediately sheathed his heavy sword on his back and used the killing technique of the melancholic sadness palm. Jinlun Fuang had never seen such a strange palm technique before. He accidentally got hit by 2 palms. He couldn't help but be shocked. He thought that right now, his side had the advantage and he didn't need to take any risks. He thought of retreating. If this continued, the situation would become even more dangerous. Yang Guo knew that Jinlun Fuang's internal energy was extremely profound. It was just that he wasn't good at dealing with strange techniques. If he missed today's opportunity, he would have enough time to think of a way to break this technique. The next time they met, it would be very difficult to win. Looking at Guijing in danger, he couldn't help but be ruthless. He wanted to take Jinlun Fuang's life in a few moves. Just at this moment, 2 gusts of cold air suddenly came from his 2 ribs. The Xianming elders had leapt out from under Jinlun Fuang's armpits and were attacking Yang Guo. Yang Guo had no choice but to return to defend. He used the muddy water stance. His empty sleeves fluttered as if he was dragging thousands of pounds of sand. The Xianming elders felt the danger. They knew that if they were hit by his sleeves, their heads would probably be smashed to pieces. They had no choice but to raise their palms to defend. They had always cooperated seamlessly. They would free up 2 hands to block the sleeves and use the other 2 to take the opportunity to take his life. A normal person would be at a great disadvantage against them with 2 hands, not to mention Yang Guo with only 1 hand. But they didn't think that when their palms came into contact with each other's sleeves, the force of the sleeves would suddenly disappear. It would become like flowing water, causing their prepared strength to hit nothing but air. At this time, Yang's other hand, with great strength, met their palms. The Xianming elders only felt a huge force coming towards them. They couldn't help but spit out a mouthful of blood and flew back. Yang wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth. He wasn't feeling well either. The cold energy from the opponent's palm was invading his veins, but he had no time to force the cold energy out. Jinluan Fuwang was a grandmaster after all. He immediately reacted and attacked. At the same time, he was cursing Xiaoxiang Zi and Yin Kashi in his heart. These bastards, they had worked together for so long. Just now, when he was in danger, they didn't even come to help. They weren't even as good as the Xianming elders, two outsiders. Yang's internal injuries weren't light. He also had the cold poison in his body. It would be a bit strenuous for him to deal with Jinluan Fuwang. On the other side, Hong Qigong had just used the shower of flowers technique to shoot out hidden weapons and hit a large group of Mongolian soldiers. He was immediately entangled by the leader of the Jin gang. He also knew that today was an exceptionally dangerous day. He didn't hold back either. The 18 dragons subduing palms met with the mighty Jin gang palm. The mighty Jin gang palm was slightly inferior. Hong Qigong seized the advantage and directly struck the opponent's chest. The sound of metal clashing could be heard. Indestructible body of diamond. If it wasn't for Hong Qigong's vast experience, he would have been seriously injured by the opponent's counterattack. Not bad. The 18 dragons subduing palms is nothing special. The leader of the Jin gang laughed. He immediately used his internal energy to shatter the clothes on his body. His body glowed with a faint golden light. He pounced forward again. On the other side, Zhou Badong was facing off against Taoist Bai Sheng. Mimicking Xiaoxiang Zi and Yin Kashi wanted to rush to Guijing's side and steal his head. However, they were all blocked by Zhou Badong. He used the left and right in-turf fighting technique. It was as if he had transformed into several Zhou Badong. He forcibly blocked the 4 experts, making it difficult for them to advance. The spectators in the distance all cried out in alarm. At this moment, a ghostly figure rapidly approached Guijing. Zhou Badong hastily tried to block it, but who knew that he would hit empty air? Chapter 2386. The ghostly figure was startled and quickly turned back. His movement seemed to ignore inertia and attracted the attention of all the masters. Master Li's Qigong is amazing. Nachin couldn't help but praise. Even Temujin respected Li Qimei, so it was not wrong for him to call him master. Chabi nodded his head, curiously sizing up the person in front of Guijing. I wonder who the other person is. Li Qimei also had the same doubts. He looked at the figure in front of him. Your kung fu is definitely not that of Nameless. Who are you? Song Qingshu's heart sank. Since Li Qimei had appeared, Temujin must not be far away. If he made any mistakes today, he would probably die here. He ignored Li Qimei's words. With a wave of his finger, a nearby sword flew up and floated in the air. With a light flick, the sword shot toward Li Qimei so fast that it was almost invisible. Li Qimei was shocked and hurriedly used the art of heavenly charm. His whole body flickered, appearing and disappearing in different directions in an attempt to escape the attack of the sword. But no matter how he changed directions or how he jumped, the sword was like a maggot in his bones, always behind him. His heart sank. How could he not see that his opponent's level was higher than his? He knew that he couldn't hide, so he had to use all his kung fu to block the sword. He formed a ball of purple energy between his hands in front of him. When the sword rushed toward him, his whole body shook. His handsome face first blushed, then became extremely pale. The kung fu he practiced was Yin energy, so he rarely sweated. But now, beads of sweat were dripping from his temples. He had already used all his kung fu, but the sword was still moving forward inch by inch. It was about to completely break through the purple energy in his hands. My life is over. Li Qimei closed his eyes in despair. At this moment, a lotus imprint appeared and bombarded the side of the sword. The sword slightly deviated and slid past Li Qimei's body, cutting a section of his sleeve and revealing his arm that was fairer than a woman's. "Thank you, Imperial Preceptor." Li Qimei thanked the monk beside him with lingering fear. Ba Siba looked at his red palm and couldn't help but sigh. "I'm afraid it's a grandmaster." Li Qimei nodded in agreement. She subconsciously looked at the person just now, but found that she had lost sight of him. At this time, Song Qing-shu had already appeared next to Na, Chun, and Cha Bai. To catch bandits, first catch the ringleader. This was a principle that even children knew, so how could he not know? The soldiers along the way could not stop him at all. The experts beside the two hurriedly tried to stop him, but they were all destroyed by his sword chi. There was only one last line of defense left between the two of them. A beautiful woman in white held a sword and stabbed towards him. Even though she knew she couldn't block it, her sword was filled with determination. She didn't care about her own life at all and only wanted to injure her opponent. Song Qing-shu couldn't help but feel annoyed. Jin Bingyun looked so gentle and quiet. How could she fight like a mad dog? In the end, he couldn't bring himself to destroy a flower. He flicked the sword in her hand away with a finger and slapped her to the side. Then, he grabbed Na Chun and Chabi's shoulders with both hands. At this moment, a gentle and mellow voice said, "Why make things difficult for the younger generation? Try it with me." Song Qing-shu suddenly felt that there was something strange between heaven and earth. It was as if several mountains were pressing down on him. The pressure made it hard for him to breathe. 56, he knew that this was not an illusion. Someone was attacking him with mental power. This attack was different from Old Man Wu Sun's. Old Man Wu Sun created illusions, but if he really wanted to hurt someone, he would need to use real attacks. But this attack was far more powerful and real than Old Man Wu Sunday. He even had a feeling that if he didn't do anything, he would be crushed into a meat patty by this virtual mountain. It would be no different from a real mountain pressing down on him. A golden light flashed in his eyes, and a small golden man appeared. A muffled groan came from the air. The small golden man in Song Qing-shu's eyes instantly retracted and then rushed to a certain place. A fist stretched out in the air. Even though it was a man's hand, it was more perfect than a woman's. It was like a work of art. The surface of the fist was as clear as jade, but it appeared simple and reserved. Song Qing-shu used his finger as a sword. The fist and the sword clashed, and the two of them separated. The man dozens of feet away looked like a demon king. He wore a purple robe embroidered with gold, and there was not a speck of dust on it. He wore a silver cloak that reached the ground, and a 3-inch wide belt was tied around his waist, revealing a section of it that was studded with gems. His figure was extremely majestic, and his appearance was almost devilishly handsome. The thing that left a deep impression on others was his translucent skin that flickered with a dazzling luster. His long jet black hair was parted down the middle and hung on both sides of his shoulders that were much wider than an ordinary person's. The bridge of his nose was high and straight, and his eyes were in high spirits like flashes of lightning, concealing an almost devilish charm. Demon Master Pang Ban? For some reason, even though he had never seen him before, Song Qing-shu immediately recognized him. Pang Ban smiled. "I've heard that the Prince of Qi, Song Qing-shu, has tender and protective feelings for the fairer sex. Today I see that it is indeed so. With your martial arts, if you hadn't been lenient, how could Bingyun still be alive? I've made a fool of myself in front of the Demon Master." Song Qing-shu took off his mask. He had just defeated Qi, Mei, and fought Pang Ban. It was difficult for him to conceal his martial arts. Now that things had come to this, there was naturally no need to hide. Jin Bingyun, who was not far away, hurriedly looked at him. Her beautiful eyes were filled with curiosity and surprise, sizing up this man who would definitely be entangled with her for the rest of her life. Not only her, but everyone else also looked over. The commotion just now was too great. With two great grandmasters exchanging blows, it would be difficult not to attract attention. Ho Shibai's face was filled with joy. "I was wondering why I was subdued in one move in the carriage. So was him, ha ha ha." He had always been brooding over the fact that he and Alan Darren had been subdued in one move. He had doubted his life, and his Taoist heart had been shaken. Now that he knew the identity of that person, he completely relaxed. However, he then thought of Xiao Long Nu, and a bitter expression appeared on his face. No wonder Miss Long Nu fell in love with him. Beside him, Princess Yulin heard him mumbling to himself, and also looked at him curiously. Is he the one who held me hostage? I heard that he is Princess Xiao Min's sweetheart. No wonder such a proud and outstanding woman fell in love with him. On the other hand, Na Chen's face alternated between green and white. Thinking of the terrifying pressure that the other party had felt when he grabbed him, his legs and stomach were still trembling. This was not the most important thing. The most important thing was that his pride as a man had completely collapsed. The other party's incomparably powerful figure lingered in his mind. How could he still have the courage to pursue Zhao Min in the future? Princess Chabai also blinked her eyes. Unlike Na Chun, who was on the verge of collapsing from fear, the powerful pressure just now had caused her to have an extremely shameful reaction. She did not know why she had such a reaction, and for a moment, she felt angry and embarrassed. At this moment, Pang Ban's voice rang out again. A fair and graceful lady is a gentleman's desire. What is there to laugh about? You have actually entered the great Grandmaster realm at such a young age. You have really put me to shame. It's a pity that you are destined to fall here today. Song Qing-shu had to admit that Pang Ban's every movement, every word, and every smile were absolutely perfect. It created an incomparably evil attraction. Those who did not have a strong will would easily be intimidated by his temperament. Chapter 23:87. As soon as he said this, everyone was in an uproar. The Demon Palace was almost on par with shamanism in Ma Bei, especially Demon Master Pang Ban, who was considered by many to be the most mysterious and powerful person. Before the rise of the Great Khan, the Mongolians discussed who was stronger between him and Tongtian Shaman Daily. Even though the Demon Gate was divided into 3 sects and 6 schools, and the sects were almost incompatible with each other, the other sects had to admit that Pang Ban was the undisputed number 1 in the Demon Gate. And yet, this young man in front of him dared to boast so shamelessly about such a supreme master. Countless fans of the Demon Palace were about to scold him when Pang Ban slowly said, "That's right, I haven't mastered the great art of Taoist heart demonic seed. If we really fight, I'm no match for you." The other people who were filled with righteous indignation were instantly silenced. The scene was silent for a moment. Many people were still unwilling to believe it. This guy looked like he was in his 20s or 30s. Even if he started cultivating in his mother's womb, he couldn't be so powerful. Jean Bingyan was also very surprised. In her heart, her honored master was invincible, but now he actually admitted that he was inferior to a young man. This made her look at Song Qing-shu with a hint of fanaticism. No matter who it was, they all had respect and admiration for the truly powerful. Suddenly, she felt something and turned around. She noticed that Pang Ban was looking at her intentionally or unintentionally, and immediately remembered her mission of planting the demonic seed in Taoist heart. All these years, in order to complete this mission, she had done a lot of research on this goal. She even thought that she knew him better than his lover. She was very certain that she would succeed, but now that he was right before her, she couldn't help but waver. Can I really complete this mission? Previously, she had been very resistant to this mission. She had already wanted to die. The reason why she had been studying Song Qing-shu so desperately was to take revenge on Pang Ban. She wanted to see if her master, whom she loved and hated at the same time, would be sad, or jealous when she threw herself into his arms and made love to him. Noticing that his beloved disciples' eyes weren't as lifeless as they usually were, and there seemed to be a trace of vigor in them. Especially when he looked at Song Qing-shu, Pang Ban suddenly felt extremely uncomfortable in his heart. However, he immediately noticed that his cultivation that had been stagnant for a long time seemed to be showing faint signs of loosening, and he couldn't help but be lost in thought. Could this be the meaning of Tao heart bedevilment? He quickly composed himself. Now is not the time to think about these things. His demonic eyes looked at Song Qing-shu. Although your cultivation is high, you are only one person. You are destined to be alone tonight. Song Qing-shu was about to answer when he suddenly felt a sense of foreboding. He looked to the other side of the battlefield. Hong Qigong was in the midst of his battle with the Vajrasek master when he suddenly noticed that the ground beneath his feet was blood-red, as if he was in a sea of blood. Hong Qigong was stunned for a moment before his hair stood on end. He had never felt such an inexplicable sense of danger ever since he had achieved success in martial arts. He forced the Vajrasek master back with a palm strike and tried to fly out of the sea of blood, but a monstrous wave suddenly surged in front of him and blocked his way. Hong Qigong's expression changed drastically. He took out the rarely used dog-beating stick from his waist and immediately used the ultimate move of the dog-beating stick technique, no dog under the heavens. Countless green bamboo stick shadows appeared around him, protecting him in the center while striking the blood-red wave around him. In the distance, Song Qingshu's expression was solemn. He immediately used Imminent Skyline to appear next to Hong Qigong. However, Pang Ban seemed to be prepared for this. He took a step forward and stood between him and Hong Qigong. In that split second, Hong Qigong's victory was already decided. The green bamboo stick shadows that filled the sky disappeared, and Hong Qigong fell heavily to the ground. The dog-beating stick in his hand had already been broken. Master! Guo Jing felt a sharp pain in his head. At that moment, he recalled many things. Seeing this, Zhou Badong rushed over to catch him. His usually frivolous face was now filled with anxiety. Old beggar, what's wrong? Hong Qigong spat out a mouthful of blood and smiled bitterly. I'm afraid this is the end of this old beggar. As he said this, he looked fearfully at the figure that was gradually appearing in the distance. 5'20", a tall and burly old man appeared a few feet away. His golden armor made him look especially heroic, and the two wolf fur pendants on both sides of his helmet added a sense of ferocity to his appearance. Greetings, Great Khan! The surrounding soldiers all knelt down to pay their respects. Yang Guo and the others quickly brought Guo Jing to Hong Qigong's side. What was the name of that move of yours? Temujin ignored the surrounding soldiers and looked at Hong Qigong. No dog under the heavens. Hong Qigong looked at the broken stick in his hand, his face full of bitterness. No dog under the heavens was the ultimate move of the dog-beating stick technique. When Ouyang Feng broke it on Mount Hua, Hong Qigong didn't pay much attention to it. After all, it was just a practice. He had given Ouyang Feng a day and a night to break it. How could he have had the time to react during the actual battle? And even if the technique was broken, it didn't matter. The technique was dead, and the person was made of fire. A single technique was indeed easy to break, but it was a different story when the person used it. But today he had lost. He had clearly lost. Even if they fought 10 more times, he would still lose. Temujin nodded. Not bad. I've heard that the Beggar Clan's dog-beating stick technique is unparalleled. Today, I've seen it for myself. To think that you were able to escape with your life from my hands. Even though he was praising Hong Qigong as one of the 5 greats of the Central Plains, Hong Qigong, who had dominated the martial world for so many years, couldn't help but spit out another mouthful of blood. Song Qingshu said in a low voice, for someone of the Khan's status to suddenly launch a sneak attack, isn't that a bit inappropriate? Even though Hong Qigong wasn't a match for him in a direct confrontation, he shouldn't have lost so badly. Temujin snorted. We Mongols learn the tactics of the wolves of the steppe. We avoid the enemy's strength and attack their weaknesses, waiting for the right opportunity to strike the fatal blow. It was through this method that we were able to conquer this vast empire. The Khan is mighty, the Khan is mighty. The surrounding soldiers all cheered. Clearly, this was a popular theory among the Mongols. The Khan is mighty, the Khan is mighty. The surrounding soldiers all cheered. Clearly, this was a popular theory among the Mongols. Song Qingshu knew that there was no point in saying anything more. He stepped in front of Hong Qigong and the others and said to Yangguo, take them away, I'm here. What about you? Even though the opponent was a love rival, Yang couldn't bring himself to abandon his comrades. "Don't worry about me," Song Qingshu said. "If I don't leave now, no one will be able to leave. I'll stay with you," Zhou Batong said. "It's not like I haven't seen any grandmasters before. Back in the day, I sparred with my senior brother every day. I'm used to it." Song Qingshu was a bit tempted. Zhou Batong's kung fu had indeed reached the threshold of that level. It wasn't as if Song Qingshu couldn't put up a fight. But in the end, he shook his head. It was too dangerous for Zhou Batong to stay here. Yang can't take care of all of them by himself. "Do you want Hong Qigong and Guijing to die here?" Zhou Batong scratched his head and was in a difficult position. "Old urchin," Yang said, "let's take Uncle Gua and Hong Qigong away first so that they won't be a burden to him. We'll come back later to help." Guijing's eyes were filled with tears. "Brother Song, this all started because of me. You don't have to worry about me. Take my master and the others and leave. You've saved me so many times already. I don't know how to repay you." "Brother Gua, don't worry about it," Song Qingshu replied. "Saving you is what I should do. You leave first. I can easily escape by myself." Chapter 2388. That's not necessarily true. As Song Qingshu spoke, a sword made of genuine qi floated in front of him. "You want to fight all three of us alone?" A cold laugh came from the right behind them. A group of black crows appeared, and the figure of the Tongtian shaman slowly appeared. Seeing him appear, the morale of all the Mongolian soldiers was greatly boosted. The Tongtian shaman was the spiritual leader of the Mongolians. Now that the three recognized masters were all here, the enemy would not be able to escape no matter how strong they were. Ho Shibai couldn't help but wave the fan in his hand. This time, Song Qingshu is dead. For some reason, there was a hint of pity in his tone. It was unclear whether it was because of the heaven's jealousy of the talented or because of Xiao Long Nu. At this time, Princess Yalowin had already moved to a safe place. Hearing this, she couldn't help but ask, "Is there really no chance at all?" Ho Shibai explained, "Since they're all great grandmasters, their cultivation is about the same. Although 1 against 2 will definitely lose, there is still a chance to escape. But 1 against 3, there is no way to escape even if he wants to." After listening to his analysis, Princess Yalowin was silent. She didn't know why she would care about someone who had once threatened her. Maybe it was because he was polite to her. Maybe the cooperation was pleasant. On the other side, Jean Bingyun also frowned. She didn't know why she was so upset. The imaginary enemy she had been studying was dead, just like that. Her life seemed to have lost its purpose. For a moment, she even felt relaxed. Finally, she didn't have to worry about this heavy task anymore. But she immediately realized that even if Song Qingshu was dead, her task would not disappear, because the great spell of Taoist Heart Demon Seed was still missing the last step, so she could only change her target to someone else. But if it was someone else, they would not be as good as the man in front of her. She didn't know why she thought this way. She could only attribute it to the fact that she had studied him too much and developed a subconscious connection with him. At this moment, Song Qingshu said, "I have no regrets in my life now that I have forced the Khan, the shaman leader, and the devil master to fight me together." He did not expose the Tongtian shaman's identity. He knew very well that it was impossible for the Tongtian shaman to openly help him in front of so many Mongolian generals. But if it came down to it, he did not mind exposing the Tongtian shaman's traitor behavior and taking the brunt of the thunder for him. "You don't need to provoke us with your words. We Mongolians have always adhered to the principle of using all our strength, even when hunting a rabbit. We won't fight you one by one." On the other side, Pang Ban smiled wryly. Given his personality, he wouldn't do something like joining hands with others, but since the great Khan had spoken, he wouldn't go so far as to reject him. The eyes of the Tongtian shaman flickered, and no one knew what he was thinking. Song Qingshu said, "But I heard that you Mongolians also have a custom, that is, to allow the enemy to die without shedding blood. Can I exchange this for another request? That is, to let them escape for the time it takes for a stick of incense to burn, and then let others chase after them?" He had heard from Zhao Min that, in the Mongolian belief, If blood was shed when one died, they would not be able to return to the embrace of everlasting heaven. Therefore, when faced with an enemy worthy of respect, they would avoid killing them with swords and instead choose to put them in a sack and let them be trampled to death by horses. Temujin looked at Guijing and the others and fell silent for a moment. Song Qingshu thought that he would refuse, but he suddenly nodded and said, "Of course, we Mongolians have always respected heroes. You risked your life to save your friend, and you are a true man. Pass on my order, let them leave first. After the time it takes for a stick of incense to burn, Li Qimei and Ba Siba will be in charge of capturing them." "Yes, Great Khan." Li Qimei and Ba Siba accepted the order. Yanghua bowed to Song Qingshu and said, "Brother Song, take care." Xiaowu and Xiaowu's eyes were filled with tears. "Brother Song, you must come back safely. This old beggar owes you a favor." Song Qingshu smiled and did not say anything. Hong Qigong cupped his hands and said, "This old beggar owes you a favor. I don't know if I will ever be able to pay you back in this lifetime. If I can't, then I'll let my disciple pay for me. But I already owe him several lives. I'm afraid I can't pay you back." Guijing looked conflicted. "Go away. You're not my only disciple. I'm talking about Rome." Hong Qigong patted him on the head. "Little Song, remember to come back alive. You haven't taught me how to make a kite that can carry people into the sky. But if you really die, don't be afraid. I'll find my elder brother to avenge you." Song Qingshu was speechless when he heard this. He thought that Zhou Buotong's brain had some problems, saying such inauspicious things. After they left, Temujin said with a smile, "I suddenly remembered that your Golden Snake Battalion seems to have an alliance with us Mongolians. Wouldn't it be a pity if we became enemies now? I'm allied with the Ryong Palace, not with the Khan." Song Qingshu replied casually, "Then I'll give you another chance. As long as you pledge allegiance to me, I'll let bygones be bygones. I'll even arrange a marriage between you and Princess Xiaomen. In the future, not only can you inherit the Ryong Palace, you can also become the king of the Central Plains." Song Qingshu let out a long sigh. "Actually, ever since I came to this world, I've been trying to avoid making an enemy out of you because I know you're the strongest enemy in the world. But avoiding is not a solution. I've thought about it, and I think it's time to face you." It wasn't that he hadn't thought of feigning civility and getting through this crisis first, but Temujin's words just now had ulterior motives. If he inherited the Ryong Palace, what would happen to the Crown Prince? Wouldn't that cause internal strife between the siblings? As for the King of the Song, that was even more ridiculous. The Mongols had yet to extend their reach to Jiangnan. If he were to accept the title of King of the Song, it would be a complete break with the Song court. When that happened, the Central Plains countries and the Golden Snake Battalion would engage in a fierce battle, allowing the Mongols to reap the benefits. Of course, Song Qingshu wouldn't fall for a mere empty promise. "If that's the case, then I can't let you live." As soon as Temujin's voice faded, a wave of blood surged from behind him, wrapping around his opponent. Song Qingshu was so young, yet his level of cultivation was already so terrifying. If he was given a few more days, what would happen to him? Moreover, he was a powerful force and had a close relationship with the Song court. He was destined to be a potential enemy on the road to the south. But under normal circumstances, it was extremely difficult to kill a grandmaster. Today was a rare opportunity, and he naturally wouldn't let it go. Song Qingshu's expression was solemn. The roaring wave of blood before him was like a huge tsunami, and he could vaguely see white bones wailing in pain within each wave. The wave had not yet arrived, but the murderous aura that seemed to have a substance had already blotted out the sky and covered the earth. If one's cultivation was slightly lower, they would probably have their minds destroyed in an instant. Who knew how many people he would have to kill to master this sea of blood and bones? Chapter 2389. On the other side, Ba Siba and Li Qimei had already started to catch Guijing and the others. Because they had been running for a while, they discussed and decided to split into 4 groups to search in different directions. Ba Siba and his disciple Yang Linjin were in charge of one group of Tibetan Buddhism experts. Li Qimei was in charge of one group of experts from the Devil's Palace. Na Qin was in charge of one group of experts and soldiers from the Hongji Law tribe. Jinlun Fuang was in charge of the other group of people from the Fourth Prince's mansion. Perhaps it was because enemies were bound to meet on a narrow road. In the end, it just so happened that Jinlun Fuang caught up with them. Guo Jing was restrained and tortured. Hong Qigong was seriously injured, and Dao was shot in the leg. It was inevitable that they would not be able to run far. It was normal for them to be caught up. Seeing this, Jinlun Fuang laughed out loud. Guo Jing, Yanghua, you won't be able to leave today. For the sake of our former acquaintance, as long as you are willing to surrender, I can help you plead with the Great Khan. Everyone will work together for the Great Khan. Zhou Badong spat. You want to be a lackey, but we don't. Jinlun Fuang was furious. Yanghua said, thank you for taking care of us these days, but we have different goals. Please forgive us. Jinlun Fuang's expression softened a little. If that's the case, then don't blame me for being rude. After the buffer, just now, he understood that Yanghua's palm technique was too strange. It wasn't that Yanghua was much more powerful than him. He had also thought of a way to deal with Yanghua, so he wasn't afraid of fighting him again. What's the point of talking so much? Just attack and be done with it. The master of the Jin gang leaped out. He had just joined Kublai and was eager to make a contribution. He had always been unhappy with Jinlun Fuang, so he wanted to take the opportunity to mock him. He had the diamond body and was invincible in defense, so he wasn't afraid of being surrounded. With him leading the way, the others also rushed out. Yanghua and Zhou Badong quickly went up to stop them. Xiao Wu carried Guo Jing on his back while Dao helped Hong Qigong. The Vajra faction master was at the forefront, and he was also the first to be slapped back by the dark steel heavy sword. Yanghua had just witnessed the battle between the Vajra faction master and Hong Qigong, so he knew how powerful the Vajra indestructible divine art was. Therefore, he didn't intend to injure the Vajra faction master. Instead, he used a gentle force to force the Vajra faction master to retreat. The guardian deity sect master fell to the ground and angrily clambered to his feet. Just as he was about to rush forward again, a pair of hands pulled him back. He subconsciously wanted to slap him, but he stopped when he saw that it was Taoist Bai Shun. Why are you stopping me? Taoist Bai Sang said faintly. Why are you so desperate? Of course we have to seize this great opportunity to make a contribution. The Titanium Sect Master was taken aback. Is there a bump on your head? Taoist Bai Sang said angrily. It's fine if you didn't know before, but now that you know that Song Qingshu is here, you risked your life to save them and even made things difficult for them. Song might be powerful, but he's surrounded by the Khan and the others. What's there to be afraid of? The Guardian Metal Sect Master had been traumatized by Song Qingshu's beating earlier, so he could not help but rejoice at the thought that he was going to die tonight. Rejoice my ass. Taoist Bai Sang pulled the Guardian Metal Sect Master to his lips and said in a low voice, Did you forget the restriction he placed on us? The Guardian Metal Sect Master let out an ah before he remembered. Taoist Bai Sang continued. He glanced at me before he left just now, and I'm still trembling with fear when I think about it. He must have been warning us. The Guardian Metal Sect Master panicked. What do we do if he dies? Taoist Bai Sang said in a low voice. Now that things have come to this, we can only pray that he's safe and sound. Why don't we go back and save him? The Guardian Metal Sect Master suggested. Taoist Bai Sang looked at him as if he was looking at an idiot, wondering if this guy had cultivated the indestructible Vajra divine art into his brain. Are you crazy? Are you going to die in a battle between great grandmasters? Besides, we're in Mongolia now, and there are so many experts and soldiers here. How long can your indestructible Vajra divine art last? The Guardian Metal Sect Master gulped. But are we just going to let him die with us? Taoist Bai Sang said, Don't worry, we've fought him so many times. The guy won't die so easily. The Guardian Metal Sect Master thought about it and finally relaxed a little. At this time, Jinlun Fuang's angry roar reached his ears. What are you two doing? Without the two of them, Jinlun Fuang, Xiaoxiang Zi, and the others wouldn't be a match for Yanghua and Zhou Badong at all. You're the state preceptor? Are we afraid to take credit from you? Taoist Baisang laughed sinisterly. The guardian metal sect master's mind worked quickly this time. I was hit by his dark steel heavy sword just now and suffered some serious internal injuries. Taoist Baisang is helping me heal. Jinlun Fuang almost spat out blood. As long as your indestructible Vajra body isn't broken, you won't suffer any internal injuries. However, the other party was lying through his teeth, so there was nothing he could do. He wanted to go up himself, but Zhou Badong and Yang Guo's martial arts were very high. Even though he had the advantage, they were like cornered beasts fighting, so he had to be on his guard. If he wasn't careful and ended up dying with them, it would be a huge loss. So he stopped in his tracks and ordered the rest of the experts in the palace to charge up. You guys go up first, let me rest for a while. Those people were eager to contribute, but they couldn't do anything when these experts were fighting. When they heard the order, they all charged up while howling. Even though Jinlun Fuang and the others had retreated, Yang Guo and the others didn't feel relaxed at all. More and more Mongolian soldiers gathered around them, and dozens of long spears surrounded them. Wherever Zhou Buotong's palms went, Yang Guo swung his heavy sword. The enemy's spears were broken, and if they weren't dead, they were injured. But the Mongolian soldiers fought fiercely, and with their numbers, they didn't retreat at all. This was why the Central Plains had so many experts, but they were powerless against an army. On the battlefield, the most important thing was to use the least amount of energy to kill and injure the enemy. That's why martial arts like the Yang family spear were very crude in Jianghu, but they could shine on the battlefield. Like Zhou Badong and Yang Guo, with one palm, the enemy's weapons were broken and the person died, but a lot of their internal energy was wasted. It was like using a cannon to kill a mosquito. No matter how high their internal energy was, the Mongolian soldiers kept coming, and their internal energy would eventually run out. Also, there were weapons coming at them from all directions, and they couldn't use their dodging skills. Yang Guo also understood that this couldn't go on, so he stuck his heavy sword into the ground and quickly said, Zhou Badong, protect me. Though Zhou Badong didn't understand what he wanted to do, he still protected Yang Guo from being pierced by the long spears. Yang Guo took a deep breath, then suddenly opened his mouth and sent out his internal energy in the form of sound waves. The Mongolian soldiers all covered their ears in pain, and many of them had their bones ruptured and blood flowed out. Only a few of the experts on the battlefield were able to avoid this kind of damage. This kind of area of effect attack had an immediate effect, and the previously aggressive Mongolian soldiers all fell to the ground. Seeing Jinlun Fuang and the others rush over, Yang Guo quickly called Zhou Batong and left. They quickly caught up with Xiao Wu and Xiao Wu. Zhou Badong quickly went over and picked up Guijing and Hong Qigong, one in each hand, and his speed instantly increased. But it was a pity that they didn't have to be happy for long. A group of people charged out from the side, and Na Chun, who was in the lead, laughed loudly. I didn't think that you would fall into my hand, charge. Chapter 2390. Na Chen's body stiffened, but the strength of the opponent's sword destroyed the life in his body. He didn't even have time to scream before he died. The horse carried him forward, and after a while, he fell heavily to the ground. The soldiers of the Hongji La tribe were dumbfounded. They thought that he had accidentally fallen off the horse, and quickly went to help him up. Only then did they realize that he was dead, and they were all shocked. These Song pigs killed the chief. Let's avenge him. Someone shouted, and all the soldiers in the field rushed towards Yang Guo and the others with red eyes. After Na Chun died, the clan elected Na Chun to be the next chief, but now Na Chun was also dead. The death of two chiefs was something that no one in the Hongji La tribe could accept. Moreover, they were in charge of the chief's safety, so they couldn't escape responsibility for Na Chen's death. Naturally, they could only try their best to kill the murderer, and only then would they be able to absolve themselves of blame. Yang Guo and Zhou Badong were also confused, but the death of the enemy's general was a good thing, so they gathered their energy to fight the enemy. But there were too many Mongolian soldiers, and they killed wave after wave. Spears and spears came from all directions, and some even rolled on the ground and hit their legs. If it weren't for the fact that the two of them were the best of the 5 masters, they would have been decapitated by now. But even so, the two of them had many wounds on their bodies. Zhou Badong was protecting Yanghua, so his injuries were more serious. He was hit by 3 arrows on his back, and most of his hair and beard were burned. Yanghua was hit by a spear in his waist, and even though he didn't get hit in his vitals, he was still injured. Yanghua didn't put the black iron sword on his back, and instead picked up a knife as a weapon. The power of the black iron sword was great, but it consumed a lot of internal energy. Now that there were so many enemies that he couldn't kill, he didn't want to waste any energy. Zhou Badong also didn't use his fist technique, but picked up 2 knives and used the mutual left and right kung fu to wield the 2 knives. The power was great, and it was like he was cutting chives. Because of this, there were more weapons on his body, and he was covered in wounds. He laughed and said, "Yanghua, it looks like we're going to lose our lives here today. You've always been smart. Think a way to save them." Yanghua was secretly alarmed. The old urchin has always been fearless and has never said a word of discouragement. Now that we're surrounded, he wants to throw his life away. It looks like the situation isn't looking good. He saw that there were enemies all around him. Other than risking his life to fight, he couldn't think of anything else. His momentary absent-mindedness allowed several long spears around him to stab at him. Just as he was about to be pierced with holes all over his body, a figure wearing an apricot yellow Taoist robe suddenly appeared. She waved her hand, and countless needles shot out. The Mongolian soldiers screamed and fell to the ground. The people at the back were about to rush forward, but she waved her hand again, and another wave of needles shot out. The remaining soldiers saw that those who were touched by the needles died immediately, and they all stopped in their tracks subconsciously. Martial uncle? Yanghua couldn't help but be surprised when he saw who it was. Li Macho didn't have time to talk to him and called out to the other 2, "Let's go." Yanghua and Zhou Badong hurried to carry Guijing and Hong Qigong and left. Li Macho hesitated for a moment, and then picked up Xiao Wu and ran. Xiao Wu scolded, "Put us down. We'd rather die than be saved by a demonist like you." Li Macho's eyes flashed, and she was about to throw them down when Yanghua stopped her. "This is the first time I've felt that martial uncle's soul-freezing silver needles are so cute." At the same time, he secretly transmitted his voice to the 2 brothers. Now that was a matter of Guijing and Hong Qigong's lives, the 2 brothers could only angrily shut their mouths. Li Macho snorted coldly, feeling that he was calling her martial uncle, which made her sound old. "You Bookroom, why are you here?" Yanghua asked curiously. He didn't expect to see her here. "I came here to relieve my boredom and accidentally found out that you were in danger, so I came to save you." Li Macho thought that she couldn't tell him that she was asked by Song Qing-shu's lover to look after him. Yanghua was skeptical and felt that this reason was too ridiculous. Zhou Badong hurriedly said, "Girl, hurry up and shoot more soul-freezing silver needles. Those people are catching up again." Li Macho snapped, "I don't have so many. I've already used them up when I saved you. I'm not my shimmy. She can control the jade bees, and they are inexhaustible." Xiao Long knew. Zhou Buitong's eyes lit up, and he hurriedly searched his body. But soon he was crying again, "I don't know where my honey went, or else I could attract some jade bees to sting these Mongolians." Hong Qigong panted, "Even if you have your honey, it's useless. The Gobi Desert is cold. There are no jade bees." Zhou Badong anxiously cried out, "Then what should we do?" Guijing was deeply apologetic. "It's all because of me. Not only did I harm Shifu, but I also harmed you. Leave me here. Don't worry about me. I have some history with Temujin. He won't kill me for a while." Hong Qigong laughed. "Jinger, you don't have to worry about it. I've lived long enough to be able to fight a grandmaster once. It's not a waste of my life." Zhou Badong waved his hand. "Don't be so wishy-washy. We can't let you suffer in the hands of the Mongolians." Yanghua and the others all agreed. But Li Macho sneered, "Suffer what? You've been spending every day with someone else's daughter, living a happy life." Everyone's faces turned strange, and Guijing blushed. "I don't know what happened. I don't remember anything. I'm sorry, Rong. Hong Qigong coughed and interrupted him. Now is not the time to talk about this. The most important thing now is to find a way to get out of here. Limacho looked back and saw the pursuers 10 meters behind them. There seemed to be people coming from other directions as well, but she really couldn't think of a way to save them. She couldn't help but make up her mind. If things don't work out, I'll leave on my own. I don't have much of a relationship with these people anyway. The only pity was Yanghua. After all, they were from the same sect. I don't know how Song is doing now, but I helped him save these people today. He has to repay me. Just then, the walls on both sides suddenly collapsed, and a large number of stones blocked the way, blocking the Mongolian soldiers' way. Just as everyone was wondering what had happened, a person in black waved at them from the broken wall. Come with me, quick. It's a woman? Limacho laughed coldly in her heart. Song still has a lot of women here. I'll go back and tell Reninging about this. But then she suddenly froze. What does this have to do with me? Why am I angry? Now that the pursuers were in a hurry, Yanghua and the others didn't have time to ask, and subconsciously followed behind the woman. They could see that the woman's lightness skills were very good, as she led them through many twists and turns, and finally into a house. Then, she opened a secret door in a hidden place, indicating for them to enter. Chapter 2391. The woman replied, Let's wait until we're at a safe place to talk. Seeing that the others were all confused, the woman laughed. Are you afraid that I'll set you up? Then I'll go in first. She then entered the secret door. Yanghua thought that in this situation, there was no need for the Mongolians to spend so much effort to set them up. Moreover, the pursuers were hot on their heels, so he followed her in. At the same time, he was secretly on guard. If the other party showed any signs of abnormality, he would attack. Zhou Batong and the others followed closely behind. Limacho hesitated for a moment, but also followed. After the mysterious woman closed the secret door, she found some rocks and placed them behind the door, completely sealing the entrance. Yanghua and the others hurried forward. What are you doing? At the same time, they were secretly shocked. The other party was a woman, but she seemed to be able to move the rocks as if they were nothing. This kind of skill was definitely that of a top-notch expert. Yanghua and the others were all injured and exhausted. If they really fought, they might not have the upper hand. The mysterious woman replied, Of course I'm going to block this place so that we won't be discovered by the pursuers. I don't want to get into trouble because of saving you. Come with me. She then continued to lead the way in front. Everyone's face was full of doubt, but they could only secretly follow behind her. The group of people went through many twists and turns, and finally climbed out of a well. When they came out, they found themselves in a large house. There was another woman beside the well. She looked younger than the person who led them. Although her face was also covered, her figure was graceful and alluring. Her eyebrows were also breathtaking. It could be seen that under the veil was a great beauty. Limacho secretly sneered. She was really worried for Run Ying and the others. Wherever that guy, surnamed Song, went, there were so many beauties around him. He really was a pervert. Although she didn't know the other person's identity, she instinctively thought that it had something to do with Song Qing Shu. Master, a younger woman, came over to support her and helped pull everyone out of the well. The mysterious older woman asked, Have you arranged everything here? The rooms and the like are all arranged. The younger woman hesitated for a moment, then pulled her aside and said in a low voice, Master, why did you save them? It's too risky. I have my own plans. Just don't let anyone else in the church know about it. She then walked over to Yanghua and the others and said, Rest here for the next 2 days. Once the storm dies down, I'll arrange for you to sneak into a caravan and leave Helen City. As he spoke, he led everyone to the front of a row of houses. At the same time, he instructed, I will send you daily necessities. Don't go out unless you have something to do, lest you get exposed. Why did you save us? Yanghua hurriedly asked. He had always been intelligent, so it was inevitable that he would think more than the others. The woman smiled and said, Your lives were hanging by a thread just now. Isn't it good that someone saved you? Hong Qigong also laughed and said, We do not know each other, It is really hard to imagine that someone would take such a big risk to save us. Please tell us your purpose, otherwise we will inevitably worry that you have other intentions. People like us have an indomitable spirit and are not afraid of death. Instead, we are afraid of falling into other people's traps and living a life worse than death. The young woman was a little displeased. What do you mean by this? Master took such a big risk to save you, and now you are blaming her? The mysterious older woman stopped her. They are worried for a reason. If I was saved by someone for no reason, I would also suspect them. I covered my face before mainly because I didn't want to be seen by some of the pursuers. As she spoke, she took off her veil, revealing a face that, despite the traces of age, was still quite beautiful. Fu Yaohong from the Sect of Destiny? Yang Guo immediately recognized her. He had been in Kublai's recruitment center for the past few days and knew many of the masters in Helen City. Fu Yaohong nodded slightly and came to Guijing's side with a complicated expression on her face. The seal on him was placed by the Khan and Li Qimei together. Li Qimei and I are both from the Holy Clan, so I can unseal his pressure point, but I can't do anything about the Khans either. However, after a period of rest, it should be automatically unsealed. Everyone present was a master and naturally understood that even if the seal was not unsealed, it would automatically recover after a few hours. However, Temujin and the others were too powerful, so it would take longer for the seal to be unsealed. Hong Qigong looked around and couldn't help but say, "We have never been friends with the Sect of Destiny. Last time, at that Brother Ali's residence, I even fought with Bloody Hand Li Gong from your sect. Speaking of which, it's more like we have a grudge." Hearing this, Yang Guo and Li Macho were secretly on guard. Only Zhou Badhong was careless and kept stroking his burnt eyebrow. Fu Yaohong shook her head. "You are wrong, Master Hong. Li Gong and I are fellow disciples, but we are not from the Sect of Destiny. We are from the Enweed faction. Strictly speaking, the Sect of Destiny is a branch of the Enweed faction, but it has long since become independent. Now, my disciple is in charge of it." The young woman beside her took off her veil. Both Dao and Xiaowu instantly blushed when they saw this. Even Yang Wu glanced at her a few more times. Li Macho, on the other hand, was secretly shocked. What a powerful fox. Even though she behaved like a saintess, as a fellow woman, she could still keenly sense the nature of things. Fu Yaohong continued, "I saved you this time without telling the other people in the sect, so you don't have to worry." Zhou Batong grinned and moved closer to her. He circled her a few times. "Why did you save us without telling the others? Could it be that you have fallen for Yanghua? Or perhaps you have fallen for Guijing? It can't be me and the old beggar, these two old men, right?" As for Dao and Xiaowu, he automatically ignored them. Guijing's square face flushed red. "Old urchin, don't talk nonsense." Yanghua was a little doubtful. Over the years, there were quite a number of young women who would show great affection for him the moment they saw him, but the one in front of him, Fu Yaohong's face also turned slightly red. It was unknown whether she was shy or angry. "I've heard that the old urchin's way of doing things, Wuji. Now that I've seen it for myself, I'm not afraid to tell you that I didn't save you, but to save him." Seeing that everyone was looking at him, Guijing's mind was a little confused. "Save me?" On the other side, Song Qingshu looked at the monstrous wave of blood surging towards him and directly slashed down with his sword. At first, the shape of the sword at his fingers was similar to an ordinary sword, but as his arms slashed down, the sword seemed to grow with the wind and finally turned into a long sword that was nearly 40 meters long. With one slash, the surging wave of blood was cut in half. After the wave of blood was cut in half, it did not disappear. Instead, it moved quickly on the ground and rolled towards his feet from the left and right. Song Qingshu directly leaped into the air. At the same time, countless black crows swept over. It was obvious that the Tongtian shaman had also made a move. Is this guy forcing me to reveal his identity? Song Qingshu's face turned cold. The sword chi around his body quickly swam and quickly killed the black crows that pounced over. He was stunned. The other party's attack looked powerful, but it was only for show. It did not contain much inner strength. He reacted quickly and immediately pretended to fall to the other side after fighting with the other party. Chapter 2392. Seeing Song Qingshu fall, Pang Ban also made a move. It was just a simple punch, but it was more powerful than any divine weapon. His punch seemed to carry the power of heaven and earth, as if there was the power of a mountain behind it. Song Qingshu could also feel a wave of psychic power, and he knew that this was a special feature of the demonized heart technique. It was good at attacking the opponent on the psychic level. If anyone else encountered it, they would be affected by Pang Ban's strange psychic power, and they would be defeated before the fight even started. Unfortunately, Song Qingshu was also good at psychic power, and, to a certain extent, he was immune to one of the opponent's biggest advantages. Otherwise, there would be no need to fight at all. As the fist and palm collided, Song Qingshu's body shook. After all, he had fought against two grandmasters, and Pang Ban had seized the perfect opportunity to force him back with one punch. However, Song Qingshu's own blood was boiling, and he could not help but look at the young man with a serious expression, a hint of hesitation in his eyes. The opponent was so young, and yet he had such a level of cultivation. It was simply amazing. If I use this kind of person as a cauldron for the demonized heart, wouldn't I become the world's number one? Thinking of this, his heart suddenly burned with passion. As Song Qingshu was forced back to his original position, Temujin's monstrous blood sea came back. A Mongolian soldier next to him did not dodge in time and was caught by the edge of the blood sea. With a scream, he instantly turned into a pile of bones. Perhaps it was an illusion, but he vaguely saw a ghost face with a twisted and painful expression in the blood sea, which quickly disappeared with the other bones. Even Pang Ban and the Tongtian shaman did not get too close when Temujin attacked. Obviously, they were also afraid of this blood sea. Song Qingshu snorted coldly. "You think you're the only one with a blood sea?" As he said this, he opened his hands, and the sword aura that had been revolving around him turned into countless rays. From afar, it looked as if he was in a ball of light. Then, he raised his hands, and suddenly a turbulent sea surged behind him. Different from Temujin's blood sea, his sea was as white as snow. How is this possible? Everyone was shocked, and the Tongtian shaman and Pang Ban were also shocked. However, their eyesight was even better, and they quickly noticed that it wasn't some snow-white wave, but countless strands of sword chi. Each sword chi was erratic, and they were too close to each other. When they came together, they looked like the waves of the sea. Song Qingshu waved his hands, and the wave of sword energy behind him surged towards Temujin's blood sea. The bloody sea and the snow-white waves collided fiercely. The white ghost faces in the bloody sea were nailed to death by the sword chi, but countless sword chi were also melted by the bloody sea. Everyone around seemed to have heard the sound of the tsunami, but then all the sounds disappeared, as if everything was quiet. Then, the substance that was mixed with the sea of blood and sword chi spread out in all directions. The Mongolian soldiers in the distance were so frightened that they turned around and fled. They were clearly very far away, but the speed at which the substance splashed out was too fast. It almost reached them in the blink of an eye, and anyone who touched it would die. Suddenly, a few mournful cries rang out in the air. Like the cries of jackdaws, black crows blotted out the sky and covered the earth as they flew over. They crashed into the sea of blood and sword chi that were splashing everywhere. Almost single-handedly, they blocked the aftershocks of the battle between the two of them. All hail the sect master. Many people knelt down to express their sincerest gratitude to the sorcerer shaman. Shamanism had a high status in the hearts of the Mongolians, and now the sorcerer shaman had saved their lives. The sorcerer shaman did not look at these people. These people were just tools to buy people's hearts. What he cared about the most was the person in the middle of the battlefield. I've already given you the chance. It's just a matter of whether you can run away or not. Now that he was in front of Temujin and the others, it was difficult for him to go easy. Just as he was having a headache, he seized this opportunity. After all, he had saved the lives of so many soldiers, and Temujin would not be able to blame him for not doing his best. Song Qingshu spat out a mouthful of blood, but he had no time to care about anything else. He quickly ran towards the empty space that the sorcerer shaman had just revealed. Yu Pang Ban's body moved, and it seemed as if he had taken a step in front of him. His opponent and Temujin were both injured, and now was the best time to kill him. But when he thought of the great magic of Tao and heart, he could not help but hesitate. But his face immediately changed because he sensed that his opponent's sword was extremely sharp, even stronger than when he was at his peak. Pang Ban had no time to think. The current situation was no longer a question of whether or not he would hold back, but whether or not he would be able to keep his life. In a hurry, he threw out a punch without holding anything back. The two separated as soon as they collided. Song Qingshu's figure disappeared at the end of the street, and Pang Ban quickly retreated a few dozen feet before he could stand still. He was still elegant, and his whole person exuded a strange charm. Only Jin Bingyun, who was beside him, could see clearly that blood was flowing from his fist in his sleeve. Jin Bingyun could not help but be shocked. It must be known that Pang Ban's fist was comparable to metal and stone. Even against the famous heavenly sword and dragon saber of the Central Plains, his fist would not be damaged in the slightest. After so many years, Pang Ban could kill people with a flick of his fingers, and there were very few people who were worthy of him using his fist. But now his fist had suffered such a serious injury. For a moment, Jin Bingyun could not help but be in a daze. Was that man's kung fu really this high? Under the joint attack of 3 grandmasters, he had seriously injured 2 grandmasters and still managed to escape? At this time, Temujin, who had been standing still all this time, finally opened his mouth. Pass down my order, conduct a citywide search. Even if we have to dig 3 feet into the ground, we must capture Song Qingshu. The Tongtian shaman's eyes moved slightly. He was keenly aware of the hidden tremor in Temujin's voice. Obviously, he was trying his best to suppress his injury. Should he take this opportunity? But looking at Pang Ban in the distance, and then at the countless Mongolian warriors around, he temporarily dismissed the idea. After giving the order, Temujin suppressed his trembling body and returned to the main tent under the escort of Naya. His orders had always been strictly obeyed, but this time, after he gave the order, everyone, whether it was the ordinary soldiers or the experts that were trained in various places, all looked at each other in dismay and did not move. He is a grandmaster. If you can't even stop him, then aren't we just going to die? As if he had seen through everyone's doubts, Pang Ban opened his mouth. Just now, he used a secret technique similar to the great art of sky demon disintegration from the Holy Gate. He overdrew his life force and blood essence for a short period of time. After that, he will become very weak, and even ordinary soldiers can kill him. In front of so many people, he had fought against the heavily injured Song Qingshu in his perfect condition. Even if Pang Ban was calm and composed, he still had to explain the reason behind it to save some face. Hearing this, the Mongolian soldiers were excited. They roared and ran in the direction that Song Qingshu had just left, as if they could see wealth and glory waving at them. Watching the crowd leave, Pang Ban said to his disciple, "Bingyun, you go too." Jin Bingyun nodded. "Okay, I will definitely kill him to avenge Master." Pang Ban shook his head. "No, you have to save him." Chapter 2393. On the other side, Guijing was stunned. "Save me," Li Macho sneered. Everyone praised Guijing as a hero and a rare gentleman. But now it seemed that all men in the world were the same bastards. Dao and Xiao looked at each other. They were brothers, so they understood each other immediately. This time, Master first slept with Princess Huazhong, and then with this woman. It's over. How can we explain it to Master's wife when we go back? Even Hong Qigong was confused. He frowned and thought, we haven't seen each other for so many years. How did Jing become so? Alas, Zhou Badong felt a chill down his spine. He waved his hand and ran to the corner. What's so fun about women? The old urchin hates romantic things the most. Yan was said in a deep voice, "Senior, Please tell me. At this time, only he trusted Uncle Gua's character the most. Don't call me senior, you're calling me old. Fu Yaohong let out a series of bell-like laughter. If such laughter was made by a young girl, it would naturally be pleasant, but it was made by a woman over 50 years old, which was extremely strange. Even if she took good care of herself, the traces of age could still be seen. But seeing that you're so handsome, I won't blame you. Fu Yaohong looked Yonggwa up and down as she clicked her tongue in admiration. If I were 10 years older and saw such a handsome brother like you, I would have taken you into my harem no matter what and pampered you. Her words made everyone blush. Hong Qigong was so angry that he turned his head away. Gua Jing and Yonggwa were also annoyed, but thinking that the other party had saved their lives, they couldn't lose their temper for a while. Only Xiaowu and Xiaowu were a little self-pitying. They had been used to the existence of green leaves around Yonggwa. No, not even green leaves. Yonggwa directly ignored them and treated them as air. Now even this old woman looked down on them. Anyway, we were also young and strong and good-looking. After giggling for a while, Fu Yaohong seemed to enjoy the feeling of teasing a group of men. Well, I won't tease you, but why did I save you? The reason can only be told to him alone. Gua Jing was stunned. Before he had time to answer, Hong Qigong refused for him. No, why can't you say it face to face? Now, that Gua Jing had restrictions on his body and his injuries were not light, he did not have the ability to protect himself if he was alone with the other party. Gua Jing also nodded. These people are all people that I can trust. They risked their lives to save me. There's nothing worth hiding from them. Fine. Fu Yaohong hesitated for a moment before saying, Were you born in Ox Village? Is your family the only one with the surname Gua in Ox Village? Not bad. Gua Jing thought back to his mother and his hometown. The reason why Ox Village was named this way was because most of the locals had the surname Yo. They were the only family with the surname Gua. Yonggwa also pricked up his ears. After all, his parents were also from Ox Village. That's right. Child, do you know about your past? Fu Yaohong sighed faintly. Her face no longer had that flirtatious look from before. Past. Gua Jing was confused, not understanding what she meant. My father is Gua Xiaotian. Fu Yaohong said, You should know that your grandfather is Gua Sheng, a hero of Liangshan, right? Gua Jing nodded. He had heard his mother mention it before. Tian Fu Yaohong asked, Then do you know why Gua Sheng participated in the Liangshan uprising and fought against the Song Court? I don't know. As a descendant, Gua Jing naturally would not easily comment on the actions of his predecessors. Fu Yaohong sighed deeply and said in a very sad tone, That year, Zhao Kuangyin rebelled in Chenqiye and took over the Zhou dynasty. Among the few remaining sons of Emperor Xiaowen, the surname Guo was changed to Chai by the Song Court. The fourth prince, Chai Zongxuan, was forced to abdicate and become King Zheng. His line of descendants endured humiliation in the Song Court. The last heir was Chai Jin, who later joined Liangshan Pa. Rumor has it that he has a daughter, but I don't know if it's true or not. The sixth prince, Chai Shijin, was adopted by Pan Mei and later changed his name to Pan Lang. The seventh prince, Chai Shihue, was adopted by Lu Yin and later changed his name to Lu Duoxuan. He and Pan Lang later wanted to stir up a fight between Zhao Tingmei and Zhao Guangyi for the throne, but they failed. Pan Lang fled to Jianghu, and I heard that he later founded Xiaoyao sect, while Lu Duoxuan was banished to Cliff Mountain. The most mysterious one is the fifth prince, Chai Shirong. Zhao Kuangyin never found him after he seized the throne, because Empress Fu's people escorted him away. Later, he settled down in Ox Village, which is near Linen City. His line of descendants is the only one who still has the surname Gua. When they heard this, everyone looked at Gua Jing in shock. Gua Jing himself was shocked as well. Are you saying that I'm the fifth prince's descendant? Of course. Fu Yaohong was a little excited. Because the one who escorted you to Ox Village was a member of the Fu family. At that time, due to the persecution of the Song Court, the fifth prince could only hide his name in Ox Village. The Fu family joined Enweed faction, a holy order that was not tolerated by the righteous path at that time. They were waiting for a chance to overthrow the Song Court. Unfortunately, not long after, the Holy Order also suffered a great disaster, and we had to retreat to Desert North. When he heard all this, Guijing was shocked. He instinctively did not want to believe it, but he could not explain why his ancestor, Guosheng, wanted to rebel. What Fu Yaohong said matched what his mother had told him in the past, and he knew that it was most likely true. Fu Yaohong suddenly laughed coldly and said, "But I didn't expect that in the end, you would become the Song Court's lackey and protect the country for your enemy. This is a great irony." The reason why she did not refuse to let so many people listen to the conversation was because she wanted to intentionally reveal Guijing's identity so that the Song Court would no longer tolerate him. Guijing's mind was blank. The impact he had suffered was too great, and he could no longer think. Hong Qigong coughed and ignored the injuries in his body. "This is a grudge from 100 years ago. Everything has disappeared. Why do you have to force it on people now? What's the difference between you and Gusu's Murong clan, who only wants to restore the Yin dynasty?" Fu Yaohong said angrily, "That's easy for you to say. Over the past 100 years, the 4th prince's family, the 6th prince's family, and the 7th prince's family have never given up on trying to take revenge. We've put in a lot of effort and blood. Even we, the Fu family, have fought against the Song Court for 100 years. Do you really think that you can erase all of this with just one sentence?" Hong Qigong fell silent. He knew that what Fu Yaohong said made sense. The enmity between a country and a family had lasted for 100 years. It was not easy to forget. When he thought about his own life, he could not help but feel that he was in the same boat as Guijing. Sometimes, fate played tricks on people. Treat your injuries first. We can talk about the rest later. Seeing that the atmosphere was getting tense, Dan Yuru hurriedly stepped forward to ease the tension. Fu Yaohong nodded her head and tossed some bottles to Yang Guo and the others. "These are our holy gates healing medicines. We have them for both external and internal applications. Your injuries aren't light. Quickly stop the bleeding and bandage your wounds. I don't want to save a bunch of dead people." Yang Guo sighed. "Our injuries are nothing. I wonder how Song Qingshu is doing now." Dan Yuru's expression changed. What happened to Song Qingshu? Chapter 2394. Dan Yuru shook her head. "That person is so capable. He won't die." Li Macho looked on coldly, thinking that Lady Ren must be blind to worry about such a man, but he ended up fooling around outside. And that idiot Shimmy, how did she fall for him? How can someone like him be trusted for the rest of her life? Humph. It must be because she's been keeping bees in the tomb all day that her brain isn't working well. She can't resist the sweet words of a handsome man. But then she remembered that she was also tricked by Lu Wanshu and her eyes weren't that good either. Her face darkened. Fu Yaohong said, "Song Qingshu is capable to become a grandmaster at such a young age, but the Khan, Tongtian shaman, and the evil master, which one of them isn't talented and powerful? 3 against 1, and there are so many masters and soldiers around. How can Song Qingshu have the luck?" Dan Yuru was silent, obviously unable to refute her judgment. After a long time, she said, "I can't be at ease if I don't see it with my own eyes. Don't worry, I'm just going to investigate and will only help when the situation is right. I'm not stupid. I won't do something that will kill me." Fu Yaohong knew that her disciple had always been smart. Otherwise, she wouldn't be better at seduction than her, so she didn't stop her. Li Macho suddenly said, "I'll go too." She thought that although that man was despicable, she was asked by Lady Ren to help, and he also had that kind of relationship with Shimmy. She found many reasons to convince herself that she didn't want to save that lecherous guy. Yangwa also stood up. "I'll go with you." Thinking that Song Qingshu risked his life to cover their retreat, he couldn't sit here with a clear conscience. Dan Yuru looked at him and shook her head. "Master Yang, you should rest here. You're heavily injured and your internal energy has been depleted. You won't be of much help even if you go. It's better to rest here and help as soon as you recover." Yang Guo had many arrow and spear wounds on his body, and he had used up a lot of internal energy on the way here, so he was at the end of his rope. Hong Qigong also opened his mouth and said, "That's right, Yang Guo. You should focus on recovering from your injuries first. Furthermore, I can't fight right now, and your uncle Gui still needs you to look after him." The meaning behind his words was clear. They were now in the tiger's den. Even though Fu Yaohong had clearly stated her intentions, they were still part of the devil cult. Who knew if they would try anything funny? Now that he had been seriously injured by Temujin, even if he was lucky enough to survive, he would never be able to return to his peak. Of course, he would not be able to protect Guijing. Zhou Badong had even more injuries on his body. Even his eyebrows and beard had been burnt off. It was unknown how much combat power he had left. With Yanghua here, with the two of them together, perhaps the other party wouldn't dare to do anything. But if he left, it was hard to say what would happen. Yanghua was a smart man and immediately understood his worries. He thought that if something were to happen to Guijing, Hong Qigong, and the others, then wouldn't the efforts of Song Qing-shu and the others be in vain? So he nodded and stayed. Dan Yuru and Li Macho silently disappeared into the night. At this time, in the Guiyu Palace, Hai Wanli was lying on her side on her husband's high and mighty throne. Her graceful and beautiful figure could be seen at a glance. Anyone who saw her would have an irresistible urge to press her under their bodies and ravage her. But now, her subordinates didn't dare to look up at her. They all had serious expressions on their faces. Song Qing-shu is so young, yet he has such great ability. I am quite interested in this man. Hai Wanli played with the ends of her hair, her eyes shining. At this time, a faint snort came from behind her. Clearly, the other party was not happy with her reaction. Hai Wanli smiled and no longer mentioned Song Qing-shu. Instead, she asked her subordinates, "Has Yaluan's side been arranged?" One of them replied, "Princess, everything has been arranged. The spy we planted in her palace a few years ago will be activated today. He has drugged her food and water." "Will that drug really work?" Hai Wanli asked curiously. The subordinate replied, "Don't worry, it's a secret drug from the western region. It can even turn a virgin into a slut, let alone a woman like Yaluan who has been suffering from drought for a long time." Suffering from drought for a long time? Hai Wanli's expression was a little playful. "Guiyu died 2 years earlier than Mengge. Doesn't that mean I've been suffering from drought for a long time?" The subordinate immediately knelt down, cold sweat dripping down his face. "That's not what I meant." Hai Wanli waved his hand. "Forget it. As long as we do a good job this time, nothing else matters." "All right. How are the preparations on Kublai's side?" The subordinate hurriedly replied. "He will send someone to lead him to Yaluan's palace. When the time comes, drywood will meet fire and it will burn." Hai Wanli smiled with satisfaction. Not bad. Kublai has always been interested in this sister-in-law. Now that she has come to his door, how can he not make a move? But just in case, make some preparations. When the time comes, tell the person in the palace to put something in his wine. Yes. The subordinate cursed silently. His mistress was indeed vicious. Hai Wanli waved her hand, gesturing for them to leave. At this moment, a person appeared from the inner hall behind her. It was the shadow assassin, Yang Shuyan. Seeing his ugly expression, Hai Wanli smiled. "What? Are you jealous that a beautiful woman like Yaluan is going to be under another man's crotch?" "The one who likes Yaluan is that brat, Ho Shibai. What does it have to do with me?" Yang Shuyan snorted. "You know that I only care about you, yet you insist on telling me this." Hai Wanli smiled sweetly and hooked his chin with her finger. "Of course I know you're good. All right, how did your mission go?" Yang Shuyan took a whiff of her fragrance in enjoyment. He was a little reluctant to see her leave so quickly, but he still answered, "I hid in the shadows and successfully killed Nachun. At the time, the battlefield was in chaos, so no one noticed anything. Afterwards, they will only think that I died at the hands of Yanghua and Zhou Batong." "Good job." Hai Wanli's face flushed with excitement. After plotting for so long, she had finally dealt a heavy blow to the Hongji tribe. It was because of their support that the Thor faction had been able to rise to power so easily. And that beat *TCH Chabi. He always relied on the fact that her family was from the Hongji tribe, and even caused Kublai's influence to grow. This time, your husband cheated on another woman and even raped his own sister-in-law. I'd like to see how you deal with this shocking scandal. kings of the Thor faction, I'll make you all sink into the endless abyss." Yang Xuyan frowned. Clearly, he didn't want to participate in these schemes. After all, he had once belonged to the Thor faction. Thus, he changed the topic and said, "Yang Gua and Zhou Batong really do live up to their reputation. I was watching from the sidelines today. Unless I hid in the shadows and ambushed them, I probably wouldn't be a match for them if I fought them head-on. There's no need for you to give up your advantages and fight them head-on," Hai wanly comforted him. Yang Xuyan shook his head. Assassination is not the right way to go. The peak of martial arts is to be like the Khan, the Tongtian shaman, and the Devil Master. That's the only way to live your life in vain. Even though I don't like Song Qing Shu, if I can fight 3 grandmasters by myself like he did one day, my life will not be in vain. Chapter 2395. What? You can't bear to? A hint of jealousy flashed in Yang Xuyan's eyes. Haiwani smiled sweetly and did not deny it. Powerful men will naturally attract women's affection. There's nothing wrong with admitting this. Furthermore, he's so young and handsome. Speaking of which, I'm a little envious of Princess Xiaomin. No wonder she's infatuated with this man. Yang Xuyan snorted, but he could not refute Song Qing Shu. If it were anyone else, he might have threatened to kill them. However, Song Qing Shu was already a martial grandmaster. Yang Xuyan was not arrogant enough to cause trouble for him. Don't be angry. I'm just saying it. It's not like he has anything to do with her. Furthermore, it's uncertain whether he'll live past today. Haiwani looked out of the window in disappointment. He could see flames soaring into the sky in the distance. It was obvious that the army was searching for the enemy with torches. Half the sky was dyed red. Helen City had never been so lively at night. At this moment, Song Qing Shu was running madly through the city. He had just fought Tai Mu head-on, and both of them had been injured. Pang Ban had tried to stop him. In his condition, he would not have been able to block Pang Ban's all-out attack. Even if he had managed to block it, he would have been forced back to his original position. He would have been surrounded by countless elite soldiers and would have been defeated. At that moment, he weighed the pros and cons. Even if he had to expend a great deal of his primordial qi, he still used the great art of blood ignition. Back then, Ren Yingying had used this art to break the seal and escape from danger. At that time, he felt that it was very magical, so he asked her to pass this art to him. Ren Yingying had been hesitant at first, feeling that this technique would consume too much of her life essence. However, she was worried that her lover would run into some unsolvable situation, so she taught it to him. At the same time, she had warned him not to use it unless it was a life or death situation. Song Qing Shu had always kept this in mind. With his cultivation, it was almost impossible for him to run into a life or death situation. That was until today, when he was surrounded by 3 great grandmasters. The reason why he had dared to take the risk to save Wu Jing was not only because the sky-reaching Wizard Union would go easy on him, but also because he was relying on the great blood ignition technique. He had decisively used this technique to severely injure Pang Ban and break through the encirclement. He had faced 3 great grandmasters alone and had even managed to severely injure 2 of them. This achievement was enough to shock everyone in the world. However, Song Qing Shu did not feel happy at all. After all, he had obtained this by sacrificing his lifespan. Fortunately, he had the Rootless Tree's secret art that Zhang Sanfeng had imparted to him previously to extend his lifespan. Thus, he was able to barely offset most of the damage he had suffered. Otherwise, he might not have been able to make up his mind to use the great art of blood ignition. However, the Rootless Tree secret art was a long-term method of nourishing one's health. It was like a trickle of water that accumulated over time to replenish one's lost lifespan. The weakness that came after using the great blood ignition technique was unavoidable. Song Qing Shu had to find a place to hide and recuperate before he completely lost his strength. His first reaction was to go to Zhao Min's place, but he immediately rejected this idea. If he could think of it, others could also think of it. Right now, The Ryong mansion had probably already laid out an inescapable trap waiting for him. Although Zhao Min still secretly controlled some forces in the city, she was still powerless against the entire apparatus of the country. Next, he thought of hiding in the palace. As the saying goes, the most dangerous place is the safest place. In the demigods and semi-devils, didn't Shuju and Tonglao of Tianshan also hide in the palace? There was also the princess who warmed the bed. No, right now, the only princess in the direct line of descent is Hua Zheng, and she just got together with Guijing. This time, I can't get involved with her again. Cough, cough. Why am I still thinking about such nonsense when I'm already in this situation? Song Qingshu couldn't help but admire himself. After thinking about it carefully, he rejected this idea. Temujin was seriously injured and would definitely return to the palace to recuperate. It would be very difficult for him to hide from his eyes and ears. While he was hesitating, he was already discovered by a group of people. These people were sending out whistling arrows as they roared and rushed towards him. The reading pavilion, most of them were Mongolian soldiers, but there were also a few tantric experts mixed in. Each of them looked at him as if he was a noble. They knew that if they killed him, they wouldn't have to worry about wealth and glory for the rest of their lives. Song Qingshu didn't want to end up like Xiang Yu, being dismembered by a group of soldiers and having to take a piece of his body to be rewarded. Normally, he wouldn't have paid any attention to these people. But now, he was like an arrow at the end of its flight, and it was inevitable that he would be unable to deal with these people. After killing several tantric experts and a dozen or so soldiers, he felt his vision blur. His hands felt as if they weighed 1,000 pounds, and his speed and strength were gradually diminishing. Am I going to die at the hands of these thieves in the end? Song Qingshu smiled helplessly. Seeing that he was about to be stabbed by a spear, he had no strength to dodge because he had to deal with the enemy on the other side. He could only barely avoid being hit in his vitals and prepared to take the blow with his body. Just then, there was a flash of silver, and the tip of the spear was cut off. The soldier didn't even have time to react before he was killed by the cold light. Only then did the crowd notice a woman in white standing on the nearby wall like a fairy. The cold night wind blew, and her hair danced in the wind. Combined with her ethereal temperament, she looked like a fairy from heaven. Jin Bingyun. Song Qingshu was a little surprised. He didn't expect her to suddenly appear and kill an enemy for him. The group of soldiers was stunned at first, but when they saw how beautiful she was, they all showed a fanatical and excited look, and many of them pounced on her. Although Jin Bingyun had a high status in the Demon Master Palace, her influence was limited to the upper echelons. Few of these soldiers knew her, and they only thought that she was with Song Qingshu. Many of them thought that they would not only be able to kill Song Qingshu tonight and enjoy a lifetime of glory and wealth, but they could also capture such a beauty and have a good time. They all thanked the longevity heaven for bringing them good luck. But they didn't know that the fairy-like woman before them could also become an Azura from hell. Wait for me. I'll take care of these people and take you to heal. Jin Bingyun nodded slightly to Song Qingshu, and her ethereal voice had a trace of inexplicable meaning than usual. After saying that, she rushed to the place with the most soldiers. Every time she waved the sword in her hand, she would reap the lives of several soldiers. She was ordered by the Demon Master to save Song Qingshu, and this matter couldn't be leaked. Naturally, she had to get rid of all the witnesses. Thank you for saving me, Mississippi. Song Qingshu bowed to her and showed a grateful smile. Then, when she turned around, he immediately ran. Are you kidding me? Maybe others who don't know will be charmed by your beauty and think that it's a beauty saving the hero, but I know what you're planning. Most likely you're here for Pang Ban's Taoist heart. I don't want to be sucked dry. Jin Bingyun saw his escaping figure from the corner of her eyes, and she couldn't help but feel angry and amused. Why are you running? Am I so scary? You're a great grandmaster. Chapter 2396. Jin Bingyun bit her lip, her emotions fluctuating. She stomped her feet and chased after him, but she wasn't confident that she would be able to find him. As Song Qingshu fled, he noticed that many Mongolian soldiers were searching for him from house to house. He knew that it would be difficult to hide from them if he hid in the homes of ordinary people. It seemed that the only way to hide was to hide in the homes of the nobles so that the ordinary soldiers wouldn't dare to offend them. This was the way of the world. Everything had to be carried out by people. Even if Temujin's original intention was to search everyone's homes, in reality, how would the soldiers dare to search the homes of the nobles? Even if the search was just for show. After all, they would see each other frequently and wouldn't go overboard. Therefore, the best place to hide was in the homes of the nobles, and it had to be the kind of rich and powerful families that wouldn't be found. Song Qingshu thought for a while and ran in a certain direction. Previously, when the great grandmasters had been fighting, everyone had been watching intently. After all, such a scene was rare. Only one person had watched for a while before leaving. That was because she had more important things to do. Princess Yalowin had always been concerned about her son's whereabouts. She had agreed to cooperate with Song Qingshu and the others because they had used her son as a hostage. Although he had just told her that he had released her son, she was still worried. Therefore, she rushed home as soon as she had the chance. She only relaxed when she saw the wet nurse holding her beloved son. Not long ago, a girl in green brought the crown prince back. The wet nurse handed over the baby in her arms. My child, seeing her familiar son, Yalowin was so emotional that she almost cried. She hugged and kissed him a few times. After her husband passed away, this child was her only hope. That man kept his word. After confirming that her son was safe, Princess Yalowin's impression of Song Qingshu improved. At the same time, she was curious about the situation over there and sent someone to check. Soon, one of her subordinates came to report. Princess, Song Qingshu escaped with serious injuries. The royal preceptor and the others are searching for him and other rebels in the city. Got it. Patrol carefully and guard the gates. Yalowin waved her hand, indicating that she should withdraw. After learning that Song Qingshu had escaped, she couldn't help but be somewhat astonished. It was truly hard to imagine how he had managed to escape from the siege of 3 great grandmasters. However, he was destined to be caught. Now that there was a full-scale manhunt, all the troops and warriors had been mobilized. Even Alan, Darren, and Ho Shibai had been sent to participate in the manhunt. Where could he possibly escape to? Of course, she only subconsciously felt that it was a pity. She did not have any thoughts of helping him. After all, the two of them did not interact much. The only good impression she had of him was because he kept his promise and released Yulong to Shur. Wang Fei has been frightened. These are the soup and pastries specially prepared by the kitchen. Her personal maid brought over some exquisite pastries and the like. Princess Yalowin had been on the move the whole day and had been worried about her son. She was a little hungry now, so she took the food. The maid's lips curled up slightly, but her head was lowered, so Yalowin didn't notice. Yalowin ate a few mouthfuls and suddenly ordered, "Prepare some hot water for me. I will rest early after my bath." Yes, the maid was a spy that Hai Wanli had planted in the residence. Hearing this, she was secretly happy. This would make it easier for her to act later. After a while, the maid came back to report, "Wang Fei, the hot water is ready." Princess Yalowin nodded. She was almost done eating, so she planned to take a hot bath and sleep early. Too many things had happened recently, and she was quite tired. Meanwhile, Kublai was patrolling the streets with his men. When he suddenly heard about Na Chen's death, he was extremely shocked. "Na Chen is dead? The bandits are ferocious. Please take care of yourself, Your Highness." The scout had been sent by the palace to warn the important figures. Kublai laughed coldly. If they were at their peak, I might be a little worried. However, they're all at the end of their rope now. I have many talented subordinates. It's fine if we don't encounter them, but if we do, we will definitely kill them. Just then, one of his subordinates mentioned something while chatting with his companions. It seems like we're not far from the king's residence. Kublai's eyes lit up, and he pointed his horsewhip in the direction of King Monk's residence. The bandits are on the run now, and I heard that my nephew was kidnapped by them. We will go to your residence to see if there is anything we can help with. Since he had spoken, his subordinates naturally had no objections. The group quickly rode toward King Mink's residence. On the other side, Song Qingshu had just climbed over the wall of King Mink's residence. He was glad that the defenses of the residence seemed to have weakened a lot. Otherwise, in his current state, it would have been very difficult for him to sneak in without anyone noticing. The reason why he chose this place as his hideout was because Monk was one of Temujin's most beloved grandsons. In addition, Temujin felt that he owed Monk a lot for his early death and had taken care of the residents over the years. Everyone else in Helen City had also been very respectful to Yaluan and her children, so the chances of this place being discovered were very low. Secondly, they had met several times before. Whether it was as a member of the Watermoon Great Sect or as Song Qingshu, they both had a good impression of this dignified and elegant woman. They knew that she was a kind person and was not as dangerous as those who were lost in the sea. If he went lost in the sea now, Song Qingshu could guarantee that even if Yaluan did not sell him out, she would still make use of him. It was very tiring to deal with such a dangerous woman. Yaluan was much easier to deal with. Just as he was thinking about where to hide, the sound of horse hooves came from outside the door. He could faintly hear Kubalai's voice. Kubalai requests an audience with sister-in-law. Song Qingshu couldn't help but groan inwardly. What the hell? Why is this guy here? Over the years, Kubalai had opened a recruitment center and had recruited many talented people. Yang Gua and Jinlun Fuang were just one of them. From the sounds outside, Kubalai had brought quite a few people with him. In his current state, if he was discovered, he would be dead for sure. He instinctively wanted to retreat, but he didn't expect Kubalai's soldiers to surround the palace as well. He had no choice but to quickly hide inside the palace. Could it be that my whereabouts have been discovered and attracted these soldiers? But the possibility of this was not high. It was most likely that he was here to visit. This was a good thing. As long as he wasn't discovered, no one would come to the palace to investigate. Originally, the guards at the entrance did not want to let him in, but Princess Yulun's personal maid, Tuya, came out and said that Princess Yulun was inviting the fourth prince in, so the guards could not stop him. Kubalai couldn't help but be happy. Yulun had always been cold to him and rarely invited him in. Could it be that what happened today made her realize that she needed a strong ally to rely on? Song Qingshu heard the sound of the door opening from afar and became even more anxious. Kubalai had too many strong martial artists under his command. He was worried that his subordinates would hear him, so he pushed open a door and hid inside. But he quickly froze. The room was filled with hot air, and there seemed to be someone not far away. Tuoya, you're back? Come and help me massage my shoulders. I don't know why, but I feel a little weak. A gentle and pleasant voice sounded. It was mixed with the sound of a hand sliding across the water. It was Princess Yulun. Master of stealing fragrance, please collect my collection. Chapter 2397. Tuoya led Kubalai into the main hall. Out of politeness, he didn't bring his troops in and only brought a few of his subordinates. Where's sister-in-law? Seeing that there was no one around, Kubalai couldn't help but feel disappointed. Tuoya bowed and said, Fourth Marquis, please wait here. Our princess will come out soon. She then called for her subordinates to serve tea. Kubalai was the most Chinese of the Mongolian nobles, and he loved to drink tea. After running around in the middle of the night, he was really thirsty. Seeing this, he didn't suspect anything and drank a few cups. Joy flashed in Tuoya's eyes, and she said to him, I'll go invite the princess. She then slowly left. Kubalai sat in the main hall and wondered why Yulun had invited him over. Thinking about the change in her attitude, he couldn't help but feel happy. Why does it feel a bit hot? The more I drink, the more thirsty I get. After a while, Tuoya came out and said, Fourth Marquis, our princess invites you over. Kubalai was startled at first, but then he was overjoyed. Yulun didn't meet him in the main hall and instead invited him to the inner hall. This meant that she had a good impression of him. Could it be that what happened today affected her too much and she needed someone to comfort her? Please lead the way. He was happy and spoke more politely. Tuoya smiled and said, Fourth Marquis, this way please. Kubalai hesitated and didn't let his subordinates follow. Instead, he had them guard the perimeter. After all, the princess in her hall wasn't suitable for too many men. Plus, he had a feeling that it wouldn't be good if there were too many people. Meanwhile, on the other side, Song Qing-shu saw that there were people in the room. He was stunned. What was going on? It looked like Princess Yalun was bathing in there. But why? There weren't any guards on the way. Shouldn't the place where the princess bathed be heavily guarded? Because Kublai was bringing people in, he was panicking and didn't want to alert the guards. So he kept walking towards the place with the weakest guards. He didn't expect to end up in the princess's room. This didn't make sense. Tuya, what's wrong? Why aren't you replying? Seeing no response, Princess Yalun was confused. Song Qing-shu was startled. If she found out and called out to him, he would be finished. So he answered, I'm coming. He had disguised himself for so many years without being discovered. Apart from his similar appearance, his voice was also the key. One branch of disguise was to change one's voice to match the target's. As for Taya, he did not know who she was, so he could only imitate the voice of the maid who opened the door. He purposely said it so people wouldn't be able to hear the maid's voice. The reason why it was so troublesome was because he knew that if he held her hostage, there would be a lot of trouble in the future, especially since Kublai was about to come and see her. Therefore, the best situation was to quietly hide in the mansion so that no one would find out. Slowly walking behind the screen, he could feel the heat getting stronger. From afar, he could see Princess Yalun lying in the wooden tub. Her hair was tied up high, revealing her slender neck. Come over here and give me a massage. Princess Yalun patted her shoulder as if she had heard the footsteps approaching. Song Qing-shu had no choice but to walk over. Princess Yalun was completely submerged in the bathtub, with only her shoulders exposed. He reached out and gently placed his hand on her shoulder, gently pinching it. Her collarbones were delicate, revealing 2 shallow dimples. Her shoulders were white and smooth, and her skin was as soft as a young girl's. It was impossible to tell that she was married or had children. Princess Yalun hummed comfortably. Tuoya, I feel like you're doing better today. Song Qing-shu was startled to see her head leaning back. Just as he was about to seal her mute acupoint to prevent her from shouting, he discovered that she was only lying down more comfortably with her eyes closed. Only then did he let out a sigh of relief. At the same time, he was worried. It was difficult to stay here without alerting her. How was he going to deal with this? He could only wait for Toya to come over and leave quietly, hoping that everything would go well. Hey, why do I have a strange feeling? I don't know how to describe it. I just can't help but think of the night I married Brother Meng. Yalun frowned. She twisted her body to ease her posture and subconsciously clamped her legs together. Song Qing-shu was stunned. Only then did he notice that Princess Yalun's cheeks were unnaturally red, and her skin was burning hot. She looked like she had been drugged. Am I injured and unable to control the genuine qi of joy? He was shocked, but he immediately denied this possibility. He didn't use his genuine qi at all. No, I'm not feeling well. I'm going back to my room to rest. Just then, Princess Yalun covered her forehead and suddenly stood up from the bathtub. Water droplets slid down her perfect waist, making her body look even more translucent. She didn't know if it was because she stood up too fast, but she felt dizzy and weak. Then, she lost control of her body and fell to the side. Seeing that she was about to fall to the floor, Song Qing-shu reached out to support her. His hand was full of soft and warm skin. He didn't know what to do. Thank you, Toya. Princess Yalun thanked him and opened her eyes. When she saw that it was a man who was supporting her, she was stunned. Song Qing-shu quickly sealed her acupoints to prevent her from shouting. He said apologetically, I'm really sorry. I came into your room by mistake. I didn't mean to offend you. If you promise not to scream, please blink. As he spoke, he pulled the clothes off the screen and wrapped them around her body. Noticing his actions, Princess Yalun's face softened a little, but her face was still very red. She blinked her eyes lightly. Only then did Song Qing-shu release her acupoints. Why are you in my room so coincidentally? Princess Yalun's tone was full of shame and anger. She had never been approached by a man like this before. However, she was rational enough not to yell and scream. She knew that it would be bad for her reputation if anyone saw what was happening. Song Qing-shu answered, I don't know why either. I chose the least guarded places along the way and then came to this room. Less guarded? Princess Yulun was stunned and said angrily, How is that possible? My room is the most heavily guarded place in the whole mansion. Song Qing-shu smiled bitterly and said, Why would I lie to you? I'm seriously injured now. If it were really heavily guarded, I wouldn't have been able to break in without a sound. Princess Yulun was deep in thought. Suddenly, she twisted her legs unnaturally and stared at him with an unfriendly look. Did you do something strange to me? Song Qing-shu spread his hands and said, How is that possible? I'm being hunted. I don't have time to do that. Princess Yulun bit her lip. She knew that he had a point. Song Qing-shu suddenly thought of something and said hurriedly, Right, when I entered the mansion just now, Kublai was visiting. Your personal maid opened the door to let him in. That's why I ran here in a hurry. What? Yulun almost stood up in shock, but she immediately realized that her clothes were a bit disheveled. Her expression changed. She had been in the center of power in Mongolia for a long time and had seen all kinds of plots. In that instant, she had already thought of many possibilities. Just then, Kublai's voice came from outside the door. Sister-in-law, fourth brother, is here to see you. If you like stealthy fragrance expert, please collect. Chapter 2398. What are you doing here? Yulun was angry and worried. She quickly wanted to put on her clothes, but her body was weak. Every time she moved, her body would tremble. She quickly closed her legs. Sister-in-law, you must be joking. Didn't you tell me to come? Kublai said with a smile. I didn't. Hurry and leave. Yulun's voice was trembling. It sounded sweeter than usual. Kublai, who was outside the door, swallowed his saliva. Normally, when she spoke to him, she was always very cold. Why was she asking him to leave? What's going on? Kublai looked at the maid beside him strangely. Tuoya lowered her voice and said, This servant doesn't dare to guess what the princess consort is thinking. I've already followed her orders and brought your highness here. The rest is up to your highness. This servant will leave now. She had been hiding for so many years. Today, in order to complete the mission given to her by her superiors, her identity had been exposed regardless of whether she succeeded or not. This was also a scandal of the royal family, so she had to leave as soon as possible. Seeing the female attendant hurriedly leave, Kublai felt a bit relieved. If she had directly said that Yulun had invited him to a rendezvous late at night, he would have been suspicious. However, it seemed like Yulun was still hesitating and hadn't decided whether or not to take that step. For some reason, his body felt hot and his lower abdomen was very stiff. He gulped and said, Sister-in-law, is Yulongda okay? He's fine. Hurry and leave. Yulun was panicking to the extreme. Back then, Brother Ming had died for no reason and had shown her how evil the world was. She was a smart person and now knew that she had fallen into someone's trap. She didn't know if the mastermind was Kublai or someone else. If it was a normal day, Kublai would have left like a gentleman in order to save face. However, there was a fire in his heart today, making him bolder than usual. I came from so far away and you're avoiding me. Isn't that a bit unreasonable? Could it be that there are bandits hiding in your room? No, I have to come in and make sure that you're safe. Hearing the sound of him pushing the door open, Princess Yulun became anxious. She hurriedly said to Song Qing-shu, Put me back in the bucket. Right now, she only had a piece of clothing wrapped around her body, which couldn't cover anything at all. She could barely cover herself in the bathtub. Song Qing-shu hesitated for a bit, but he still carried her and put her in the water. He heard Hu Bailai push open the door and quickly jumped onto the beam. He was also a little depressed. Now that he was seriously injured, he wanted to find a quiet place to rest and recuperate. Who knew that he would run into this mess? He didn't know how to deal with it. Princess Yulun went back into the bathtub and instantly shrunk under the water. Only her head was above the water. At the same time, she pulled her clothes over the bathtub to block the water. Kublai was also stunned when he came in. He didn't expect the room to be filled with steam. He was surprised and happy. Sister-in-law is bathing. Princess Yalwin felt like her body was going to melt. If it wasn't for the fact that she was leaning against the wall of the bathtub, she probably wouldn't have been able to sit up straight. Hearing this, she said angrily, "Since you know, why aren't you getting out?" Unfortunately, under the effect of the medicine, her angry voice didn't express her anger. Instead, it was soft and seductive. Kublai's mouth was dry. He thought that she was just pretending to be reserved, so he didn't care anymore. "Huh, there are no outsiders here. Sister-in-law, why do you have to be like this? Since you called me in the middle of the night, and you purposely bathed here to wait for me, I, who by am not an impulsive man." Bastard. Princess Yalwin was furious, but her tone wasn't as firm as before. Right now, her mind was filled with romantic scenes. She even heard a voice in her heart telling her not to reject him. Ever since her husband passed away, she had been alone for a long time. Although she pretended to be strong outside, only she knew how lonely it was to be alone on an empty bed. At this moment, Hubailai had already walked over. Looking at his usually dignified sister-in-law, he felt as if his entire body was about to explode and his eyes were bloodshot. "Sister-in-law, after Big Brother passed away, you must have had a hard time sleeping. Big Brother treated me very well in the past, so now that he's gone, I must take good care of you." Hubailai gulped and a hint of wildness flashed in his eyes. He had always had a strange feeling towards this dignified and beautiful sister-in-law. Back then, when Brother Meng sent people to investigate the taxes on his fief, it was the kind Yulun who spoke up for him and prevented the conflict between the two brothers from escalating. He had always remembered this kindness in his heart. When Yulun looked at him, her faint smile and gentle eyes were deeply imprinted in his mind. However, because of their identities, he didn't dare to cross the line. Originally, when Brother Meng died, he thought he had a chance, so he impulsively did something rude to her. Who knew that this gentle and dignified sister-in-law's attitude would suddenly change, and from then on, she wouldn't even pretend to be nice to him. After the incident, the Khan also warned him, but he could only bury this twisted love deep in his heart. However, the more he hid it, the easier it was for it to explode. His desire to get Yulun had gradually become an obsession in his heart. Today, he was triggered by the drug, and Yulun was standing in front of him without any defense. He didn't care anymore. He just wanted to have her. What's the point of bathing alone? Sister-in-law, why don't you try bathing together? Hubailai quickly took off his jacket and jumped towards Yulun. "Save me." Yulun raised his head and looked at Song Qing-shu with his remaining rationality, his eyes filled with pleading. Song Qing-shu sighed and jumped down to knock Hubailai unconscious. How could he just sit back and do nothing about something like this? Yulun looked at Kublai on the ground and let out a sigh of relief. She looked at Song Qing-shu with watery eyes and said, "I don't have any strength left in my body. Can you help me out?" Song Qing-shu nodded. Although he was heavily injured, he was still a martial grandmaster. He still had the strength to help a woman up. Yulun wasn't heavy either. She couldn't help but moan as she felt the masculine aura of a man. Perhaps she felt too embarrassed, but her cheeks instantly turned red. "I'm not like this normally." Song Qing-shu nodded. "Yes, you were drugged. Are you sure it wasn't you who did it?" Princess Yalwin raised her head and looked at him closely. "What do you think?" Song Qing-shu helped her sit up. He took her clothes and was about to wrap her up when he realized that her clothes were already soaked. In fact, Yulun also knew that it was not him. She just asked casually, but when she noticed his action, her expression changed, as if she was having a very fierce mental struggle. After a long time, she sighed and said, "Can you carry me to the bed?" Song Qing-shu nodded. He carried her to the bed and placed her down. "You're in a high position. It's normal for people to target you. You have to be careful in the future. I won't run into you every time." After he finished speaking, he got up to see if he could find the antidote on Hubailai's body. However, Hubailai grabbed his hand. Chapter 2399. I'll go see if there's an antidote. Hearing this, Princess Yalwin finally let go of him. Song Qing-shu squatted down next to Kublai and searched him. Unfortunately, he couldn't find anything. He could only get a cup of cold water for Princess Yalwen to drink first. He doesn't have an antidote on him. I think he was poisoned as well. I don't know if he did it himself or if someone else drugged him. Princess Yalwen took a sip. The cold water helped her regain a bit of consciousness. She quickly said to him, "Help me see if anyone is coming." Song Qingshu nodded. He walked to the window and looked outside. He came back and said, "There's no one in 100 feet radius." Normally, he wouldn't even need to look with his eyes. He could just sense the surroundings. Unfortunately, he was heavily injured and couldn't do that. Old 4, this guy really has bad intentions. He sent everyone away. Princess Yalwen was so angry that she threw the cup at Kublai. Unfortunately, she was too weak and the cup fell to the ground. Song Qingshu had a headache as well. Normally, he could use his internal energy to help her recover. But now, he couldn't and he didn't have the time. "Princess, please rest here. It's not good for me to stay in a situation like this. I'll leave now." Song Qingshu wanted to find a quiet place to heal as soon as possible. He had already wasted a lot of time just now. "Don't go." Princess Yalwen panicked. Seeing the other party's anxious expression, Song Qingshu was stunned. "Isn't having me stay here the same as taking advantage of the other party's precarious situation?" Noticing his gaze, Princess Yalwen's face turned red. She quickly explained, "What if he wakes up after you leave?" Song Qingshu looked at Kublai on the ground and replied, "Don't worry. Even though I'm injured, I sealed his acupuncture points. He won't wake up before dawn." "But what if his subordinates see that he's not moving and come in?" Princess Yalwen panicked. "But this is your territory." Song Qingshu was speechless. Princess Yalwen bit her lip and said, "I don't want my subordinates to see me like this." Song Qingshu cursed silently, but he still cupped his hands and said, "Although I really want to help, there are people chasing after me everywhere. I need to heal as soon as possible, so I can't help even if I want to." Then he turned around and was about to leave. Princess Yalwen's voice carried a hint of sobbing as she said, "Do you really want me to make it so clear?" Song Qingshu turned around. He looked at her in confusion. Princess Yalwen turned her head away. She bit her lip so hard that it almost bled. "I'm going to lose my mind in this state. Any man will be able to get his hands on me easily. Instead of being taken advantage of by some filthy man, I'd rather with you, why me? I don't think we've met more than a few times." Song Qingshu didn't understand what she was thinking. "You don't want to take advantage of others, so you're with me? I'm still a wanted criminal in Mongolia." Princess Yalwen blushed and said, "Because you sent Yulong Dashu back, so I know you're a man of your word. And you're a great grandmaster. We Mongolians worship the strong." She gave several reasons in a row, but they became more and more illogical towards the end. A smile appeared on Song Qingshu's face. "It's really not because I'm handsome?" Princess Yalwen was stunned. She didn't expect such a shameless person to exist in the world. If it were any other day, she would have turned against him. But now, under the influence of the drug, she felt an inexplicable feeling. She blushed and replied, "You're indeed more pleasing to the eye." Song Qingshu gently lifted her chin with his finger. The woman in front of him had a rosy complexion and her eyes were like pools of autumn water. He couldn't help but sigh and say, "You're also very beautiful, princess." Princess Yalwen shuddered when the strange man touched her skin, but she still insisted and said, "After tonight, you and I will be strangers. No one is allowed to bring this up, and no one is allowed to pester me." This was what she was most worried about. If he were to pester her after this, and her identity was so sensitive, once it was exposed, it would be the biggest scandal of the royal family. The reason why she didn't want to find someone else in the house was also because she was worried about this. And as a great grandmaster, Song Qingshu wouldn't do something like pestering her. Besides, in her mind, she subconsciously regarded everyone else in the house as servants. Only someone like Song Qingshu could be her equal. Of course, he was indeed very handsome. Song Qingshu thought for a moment and said, "But I still need to stay here for a while to recover from my injuries." Princess Yalowin was so angry that she almost fainted. She felt as if she had been begging him to agree, but the growing heat in her body made it impossible for her to refuse. Okay, as for whether or not the other was a criminal, she did not care. It should be known that she had once been the crown princess, but after her husband's unexpected death, the status of their branch was as different as heaven and earth. It was difficult for her to worry about the Great Khan. Song Qingshu reached out and wiped the tears from the corners of her eyes. He sighed and said, "If you don't wanna, I'll leave right now." Although the Mankisvara Dhyana could quickly heal internal injuries through dual cultivation, the healing methods recorded in the Nining Manual, the Holy Light Sutra, and the Taishan Sutra were also amazing. With his current level of cultivation, it wouldn't be a problem for him to use his internal energy to heal himself. The only difference was that it would be a little slower, so he didn't want to take advantage of her. Unexpectedly, Princess Yalowin grabbed his hand tightly and said, "Don't go, I want to." At this time, Song Qingshu felt that he was not a man if he continued to be so wishy-washy. He held her chin and kissed her. His other hand slowly moved downwards, and wherever it passed, he instantly removed all of her defenses. Yalowin's hands gripped the bedsheets tightly. A thought flashed through her mind. How could this man be so skilled at undressing? She had been suppressing the effects of the drug since the beginning. Now that she was so close to the man's masculine scent, every inch of her skin was completely ignited. Before she lost consciousness, she hurriedly reached out to stop him. "What's wrong?" Song Qingshu couldn't help but admire the woman's skin. The cold wind of Ma Bei didn't leave a trace on her. Yalowin's chest rose and fell rapidly. Her mind was in a mess at the moment. "Find a piece of cloth and cover my eyes." Song Qingshu was dumbfounded. He didn't expect such a strange request. Princess Yalowin turned her head to the side. Her face was flushed. "That way, I can't see you." I can imagine you as Brother Meng." Song Qingshu's first reaction was that she was still deceiving herself at this point. However, a trace of admiration quickly rose in his heart. If it wasn't for the accident today, with her personality, she probably wouldn't have done anything to let her husband down. Despite all the reasons, she still felt sorry for her husband. This was the only way she could preserve her last shred of dignity. "Okay." Song Qingshu picked up the belt that she had left on the side and gently covered her eyes with it. Chapter 2400. Song Qingshu was a gentleman. He would not refuse a woman's reasonable request, not to mention that he had nothing to lose by blindfolding her. Sometimes fate was so strange. The two of them had only met a few times and had barely spoken to each other. But now that something had happened, Princess Yalowin was willing to ask him, a stranger, for help. Why did he just happen to be here? Of course, although Princess Yalowin had only seen him a few times, Song Qingshu had seen her a few times as a member of the Shuiwei faction. At that time, the impression she gave was that she had a very cold temperament. She was dignified and beautiful, with a faint sense of inviolability. Especially compared to the enchanting temperament of Hai Wanshin, the two were two extremes. No matter how rich his imagination was, he would never have imagined that every once in a while, the noble and elegant Princess Yalowin would lie in front of him like this, and even take the initiative to invite him. After being blindfolded, Princess Yalowin could only see darkness. Her chest rose and fell rapidly. Obviously, she was also extremely nervous, waiting for the moment when her fate would come. But after a while, he did not move. She could not help but ask in a trembling voice, Why don't you say anything?" Song Qingshu was admiring her beauty. Hearing her question, he smiled and said, "Didn't you want to imagine me as Brother Meng? If I say anything, I will make you lose your acting." Princess Yalin could not help but bite her lip. This man was really a bit naughty. "I'm a little scared if you don't say anything. What are you afraid of? Are you afraid that someone else will change midway?" Song Qingshu moved closer to her ear and said teasingly. Princess Yalowin's heart trembled. Her mind could not stop thinking about some scenarios. She only felt that her body was becoming more and more sensitive. She could not help but spit out, "You are such a jerk. She took a deep breath and said, "Anyway, no matter how you deliberately scare me, I will not take off the blindfold. Do as you wish." Looking at her stubbornly raising her head as if she was defending the last bit of her dignity, Song Qing-shu could not help but feel pity for her. He bent down and kissed her gently. Princess Yalin was already very uncomfortable. Her mind was already in a mess. This time, she was completely ignited, her arms tightly wrapped around the man on top of her. After an unknown period of time, Princess Yalin was awakened by the faint chirping of birds outside the yard. Only then did she realize that she was lying in the arms of a man. Her beautiful hair was spread over his chest like a waterfall. Thinking of the absurdity she had just experienced, she did not know how to face it for a moment, so she quickly closed her eyes. Sensing her movement, Song Qing-shu asked, "Are you awake?" After a night of recuperation, although his injuries were not completely healed, he finally had the ability to protect himself. After a period of recuperation, he should be able to fully recover. Unable to pretend to be asleep any longer, Princess Yaluan's mind raced as she tried to think of a solution to the current problem. Suddenly, Yaluan could no longer. Yaluan's mind was raced. She sat up and thought. Think was. Yaluan thought. She. Thinking. To she. Song Qing-shu said, "Don't worry, princess. I won't pester you anymore. Arrange a place for me. I won't go out. I will leave after I recover." Song Qing-shu. Wasn't that what you asked for in the beginning? Last night, too. At first, you wanted me to beg you. Now you can't wait to cut all ties with me. The more Princess Yaluan thought about it, the angrier she became. Tears fell from her eyes. Am I that bad in your heart? Even though Song Qing-shu had many female friends and was experienced in this area, he found that he did not understand women at all. I didn't mean that. I just didn't want to put you in a difficult position. We're already like this. What else can I put you in a difficult position? Princess Yaluan pulled the quilt over her shoulders. She realized that her anger was unreasonable, but as a woman, she couldn't bring herself to do it. Song Qing-shu suddenly understood. He pulled her back in his arms and whispered into her ear, "Last night, we agreed that we would have nothing to do with each other after tonight. But the sky is still dark. That means the night is not over yet. Why don't you take advantage of me again, princess?" Yaluan blushed. She pushed him away. "Puffed. You wish." Although she said that, her expression gradually softened. Song Qing-shu heaved a sigh of relief. He had almost made a huge mistake before, which was to make her suspect that he was not charming. A woman could abandon a man, but no one could stand being abandoned by a man. Also, you can call me Yaluan from now on. Don't call me princess. There are so many princesses in Helen City. Who knows who you're calling? Yaluan suddenly said. Song Qing-shu was not used to seeing her blushing cheeks and her ladylike attitude, which was completely different from her usual cold and dignified appearance. Last night, Yaluan bit her lip as soon as she opened her mouth. It was obvious that she found it difficult to speak. What happened? I felt that way. What feeling? Song Qing-shu was stunned. Princess Yaluan blushed. Forget it. It's nothing. She couldn't say it out loud. The Mongolians had always valued martial arts. As a prince, Brother Ming was usually very strong. It wasn't that she had never tasted the pleasures of the bedroom, but compared to last night, the difference was like heaven and earth. She had always been a proud and reserved person. She had never lost her composure like that. It was as if she would live or die if the other wanted her to. She had completely surrendered. She didn't like this feeling. But the reason that had just risen up was completely washed away by the memories of her body. It turned out that Song Qing-shu had been seriously injured last night. Because he was in the enemy's camp, he needed to recover as soon as possible. In order to heal, he used the jinqi of joy to the fullest. The jinqi of joy naturally entered her body. In the past, after Zhou Zhuo, Zhao Min, and the others tried it once, they blushed and refused to let him use it on them again. Song Qing-shu also knew that the jinqi was a bit strange. He was careful not to use it on his female friends. He communicated with them with their true feelings. Because he hadn't used it for a long time, he had forgotten the power of this thing. Princess Yaluen, who had been living in the palace for a long time and had always been a reserved lady, couldn't stand it. Last night seemed to have opened the door to a new world. She even felt that all the sweet memories of the past were tasteless. One of them didn't know what happened to her body. The other had been thinking about how to deal with the Mongolians, so she didn't notice what had happened. But Princess Yaluen had been in a high position for a long time. She took a deep breath and calmed herself down. She pointed at the man on the ground and changed the topic. Now, there's a problem. What do we do with Kublai? Then, she started to worry. If the news that she was with another man got out, she wouldn't be able to face anyone anymore. What was more terrifying was that the glory of her family and even the future of Yulongdashu would be ruined. Thinking about this, she looked at Kublai with a hint of killing intent. Mongolian women were never weak little rabbits. Although she was usually kind, she didn't mind killing people when the time came. Chapter 24:01. Looking at Kublai, who had been sleeping on the ground for most of the night, Song Qingshu also fell into deep thought. He was hesitating about whether or not to replace him. Now was a great opportunity. According to history, Kublai would eventually become the ruler of Mongolia. If he killed him now and disguised himself as him, then wouldn't the Mongolian Empire be in his hands in the future? But after some consideration, he gave up on this idea. First of all, he would kill a Mongolian prince in front of Yeren and then impersonate him to take over the empire. Song Qingshu didn't think he had the charisma to make Kublai so loyal and willing to cooperate with him without regard for his own country. Disguising himself was his biggest trump card. If it was exposed, there would be a lot of trouble. On the other hand, Kublai had a lot of trusted subordinates. He also had an upright princess and many concubines. Even if he could disguise himself to fool most people, it would be difficult to fool his trusted subordinates, not to mention those who shared his bed with him. Most importantly, Kublai wasn't the only ruler of Helen City. Ali Buj, Hai Wanli, and many others were watching him make mistakes. There was also Temujin above him. If he made the slightest mistake while impersonating Kublai, he would be doomed. If he was with Zhao Min right now, he could discuss how much power the Ryong Palace had in the city, and if they could guarantee that he could successfully impersonate Kublai. But now that he was alone, he gave up on taking such a big risk. "I'm talking to you." Seeing that he wasn't talking, Princess Yeren shook his arm. She didn't expect to speak in such a coquettish tone. "How about we kill him?" Song Qingshu said in a low voice. "Kill him?" Princess Yeren was shocked, and her voice started to stutter. "That's not a good idea. He's one of the princes, and he has subordinates outside." "Then let him go?" Song Qingshu asked. Princess Yeren still shook her head and blushed. "No, he saw me last night. With that look on his face, how could I let him go?" "You're not killing him or letting him go. What do you want?" Song Qingshu was amused. Princess Yaluen was a little embarrassed. "I'm just asking you because I don't know." Just then, there was a sudden commotion in the distance. Princess Yaluen was taken aback. "What's going on outside?" She sat up straight and tried to see what was going on outside. But how could she see anything from where she was? Song Qingshu listened carefully for a while and quickly said, "Quickly put on your clothes. There's trouble coming." Princess Yaluen was still confused. Song Qingshu explained, "Someone seems to be trying to break in. I think the leader is Brother Ali. Kublai's men are trying to stop them." Princess Yaluen blinked her eyes. "What about my men?" Song Qingshu was speechless. "Of course your people are at a loss. They don't know what happened to you, so they don't know who to help." Princess Yaluen said angrily as she put on her clothes. "These be asterisk stars. We still haven't settled the score with them for letting Hu Bailey in." At the same time, she was anxious. "What should I do now? Brother Ali must have come prepared. He's probably here for... She couldn't bring herself to say the word catch. She even suspected that this was all Brother Ali's doing. Song Qingshu had already arrived in front of Hu Bailey. He quickly helped him put on his clothes and unsealed his acupuncture points. Seeing Hu Bailey slowly open his eyes, Princess Yaluen was about to scream when Song Qingshu said to him, "Look at my eyes." Hu Bailey's eyes quickly became cloudy again. Then, he heard Song Qing-shu ask, "Did you drug Yalan last night?" Actually, people of high status like him were usually people with strong wills. It wasn't easy to hypnotize them. If he hadn't been drugged and was in a daze, he wouldn't have succeeded so easily. Hu Bailey shook his head. "No," Song Qing-shu asked. "Then why are you here so coincidentally?" "I just came to see her. Her maid said that she invited me in, so of course I came in," Hu Bailey replied. His breathing suddenly quickened. "When I saw her at Big Brother's wedding, I saw her sweet smile and curved eyes. I fell in love with her. In the past, when Big Brother was here, I couldn't do anything about it. But now that he's gone, I won't let go of any chance to get her." Song Qing-shu was speechless. So there was such a twisted love between them. Princess Yaluan was furious and embarrassed. She walked over and was about to hit him. "I'm your sister-in-law." Song Qing-shu quickly stopped her. What kind of joke was this? The soul-shifting technique wasn't omnipotent. She might wake up if she got hit. After finally calming Yaluan down, Song Qing-shu said to Hu Bailey, "Do you remember what happened yesterday?" Hu Bailey replied mechanically, "I was brought in by Tia. Then I saw Yaluan in the bathtub. Her shoulders were so white." Seeing Princess Yaluan's face turn red, Song Qing-shu hurriedly interrupted her. "No, it's all just a dream. You don't remember what happened yesterday." "Dream?" Hu Bailey was confused. "That's right." Song Qing-shu continued to guide him. "You drank Tuoya's medicine yesterday and then fainted. Tuoya must have drugged you." "Tuoya drugged me. I fainted last night," Hu Bailey repeated mechanically. "Now that you're awake, you can leave. Your men are still outside," Song Qing-shu continued. Hu Bailey nodded and left the room. Princess Yaluan was stunned by the whole process. Is this hypnosis? The Mongolians had been fighting all over the world and had come into contact with many Western missionaries. As a high-ranking official, she had heard about this. Song Qing-shu nodded. "Something like that." Princess Yaluan was a little alarmed. "Did you use the same sorcery on me last night?" Song Qing-shu said angrily. "Then do you remember what happened last night?" How could she not remember? That was something she had never experienced before. She remembered every second of it clearly. Yaluan's face turned red. "What if it was a dream you created for me?" Song Qing-shu smiled. "You can think of it as a dream." Yaluan knew that it wasn't very likely, but she still said, "I don't care what happened yesterday, but you can't use this on me again." Song Qing-shu nodded. "I usually don't use this on women. It's no different from people like Tian Boguang and Yunzhong." Princess Yaluan didn't know who Tian Boguang and Yunzhong were, but after hearing his promise, she relaxed. Just then, hurried footsteps could be heard. Then, Ali Bug's surprised voice came from outside. "Good, fourth brother, you're here." Hu Bailey's voice also came. He had obviously returned to normal. "What do you mean?" Ali Bug laughed coldly. "You know what you did. A man and a woman were alone in the middle of the night. Don't be afraid. I'll get justice for you." As he spoke, he ordered his subordinates, "Capture this bastard who bullies his brother and his wife." His men all came forward. They were Hu Bailey's men. They all came out to protect their master and started fighting. Chapter 2402. Haimanshin's men quickly advised, "Princess, please reconsider. If you go out now, all your efforts will be in vain." Haimanshin giggled. "Look at how scared you are. I was just saying. Otherwise, I wouldn't have sent someone to inform Brother Ali. I hope he won't disappoint me." At this time, in the Mongol palace, Ali Bug and Kublai's men were fighting. Many of Kublai's men had been sent out to capture the criminal, and Ali Bug's men were still there. So, Kublai's men could not hold on much longer. Just then, Princess Yulun walked out neatly. "If you want to fight, go out and fight. Why are you doing this in my house?" "Princess." When the warriors in the residence saw their mistress, they all ran to her side to protect her, as if they had found their backbone. Ali Bug was startled. He looked at Princess Yulun and couldn't help but ask, "Sister-in-law, are you all right?" "Of course I'm fine. What could happen to me?" Yulun's expression was unfriendly. This guy came so timely. Was he the mastermind behind all this? They were originally on good terms and had even secretly formed an alliance. But if it was confirmed that he was the mastermind, she would probably fall out with him on the spot. Ali Buge thought to himself, I heard that Kublai came here to bully sister-in-law, so I came to save you. Where did you get this information? Princess Yaluan asked. Someone said that Kublai has been in your room for a few hours and hasn't come out, so I came to see. Ali Buge asked uncertainly, Sister-in-law, are you really all right? He couldn't help but sound a little jealous. Thinking about how this beautiful and dignified wife of his had been taken advantage of by Kublai, he was very unhappy. However, he still needed the support of Yaluan's family to fight for the throne. After he became the Khan, he could take her into his harem. Now that she's with Kublai, why would she support me? Seeing the change in his expression, Yaluan could roughly guess what was going on. He said angrily, What nonsense are you thinking? Today, Kublai came to see me and was ambushed. He rested here for a while and only just recovered. Hearing this, Kublai's subordinates all worriedly asked their master. Kublai nodded and said, That's right. I was invited in for a cup of tea, and then I fainted. Sneak attack? I wonder who would dare to plot against another prince in sister-in-law's residence? Ali Buge's expression was full of suspicion. Princess Yaluan replied calmly, It's Tuya, a maidservant in my residence. I don't know who ordered her to do this, but I'm sending people to arrest her. Ali Buge was puzzled. If Lao Si was ambushed, why didn't Imperial sister-in-law call for help earlier? Why did she insist on staying with him for so many hours? Princess Yaluan blushed and hurriedly said, After all, he was plotted against by my maidservant in my mansion. If anything happens to him, I will definitely be held responsible. So naturally, I want to save him first. Is that okay? Of course it's okay. Ali Buge smiled awkwardly. But I don't know which doctor Imperial sister-in-law called to diagnose Lao Si, and who else was there. Song Qing-shu was secretly worried as he listened in the room. How could Princess Yaluan answer these questions? Just as he was worrying for her, he heard her say angrily, Ali Buge, what is the meaning of this? Are you interrogating me like a criminal? No. Ali Buge smiled apologetically. I'm just trying to find the truth. It's already been troublesome enough today, and you're still causing more trouble. Princess Yaluan finally exploded. She ordered her subordinates, All of you, get out. Kick these people out. Hearing this, the guard and the residents all went to chase them away. Although Ali Buge and Kublai had a lot of subordinates, this was still someone else's home. Since they had already asked them to leave, they naturally couldn't force them to stay. They could only leave. After they left, Ali Buge sneered at Kublai. Lao Si, you've done such a shameful thing. The Great Khan will never forgive you. Kublai was also furious. What nonsense are you talking about? Who did something shameful? I'm too lazy to talk to you. After saying this, he ordered his subordinates to leave. He was also very depressed. He had come in high spirits. But not only did he not catch the fox, he also got himself into trouble. Kublai felt a bit cold and his body was very sore. He just wanted to go back, take a hot bath, and rest. Seeing them come out, Hai Wanli was a bit surprised. What happened? It just left like that? Very quickly, a subordinate came to report what happened inside. Hai Wanli was a bit confused. That's not right. The two of them should still be in the middle of the night. Ali Buge should be able to catch them in the middle of the night. How did this happen? You said the two of them were awake? Did something happen to Daya? Where is Tuya now? The subordinate replied, reporting to Wang Fei. Tuya has disappeared without a trace. Hai Wanli sneered. She ran pretty fast. Find someone to drag her out. Remember, we can't let Yaluan's people find her first. He then prepared to leave. She was very annoyed that she didn't get to see the show she had imagined. She walked a few steps and stopped. No, I can't let them go like this. Find someone to spread rumors. Humph, a man and a woman have been together for so long. I don't believe that nothing happened. In King Mongo's palace, Alan Dart and Ho Shibai had already rushed back after hearing the news. They all asked if Yaluan was safe. Yaluan smiled and said, Don't worry, I'm fine. I already sent them away. Alan Dart was instantly elated. That's good. If Princess was really bullied, how could I face His Highness? Hearing him mention King Mongo, Princess Yulun bit her lips. Her expression was a bit unnatural. She quickly said, "Go and find Tuoya's whereabouts. Also, find her family. After you catch her, don't ask anything. I want to interrogate her myself." Yes. The two of them accepted the order and left. Unlike Alan Dart's excitement, Ho Shibai's mind was completely blank. Alan Dart was a simple-minded guy who believed everything people said. However, standing so close to Yulin, he could clearly see that her skin was rosy and her eyes were filled with lust. As an experienced womanizer, he naturally knew that this was because she had just been nourished by a man. She looked like she had just experienced extreme pleasure. All this time, although he was amazed by Xiao Long Nu and was amazed by Jean Bingyun's beauty, these were just pure admiration for beauty. On the other hand, after staying by Princess Yulun's side for a long time, seeing her dignified and noble appearance, and seeing her bitter loneliness, he couldn't help but feel a strange feeling for her. He had been thinking about her for a long time. Who knew that Kublai would get to her first? Thinking about how the woman he was thinking about was being played by another man, he felt as if his heart was being cut by a knife. At one moment, he even wanted to rush out and kill Kublai. However, he knew that he couldn't kill Kublai. Kublai had many strong subordinates, and many of them were stronger than him. Kublai was also likely to be the future king of Mongolia. How could he compare to Kublai? In the end, he could only swallow the bitterness in his heart. Since Yulun didn't want to talk about this, then he would pretend that he didn't know about it. He didn't want to reopen her wounds. After arranging many things in the residence, Princess Yulun returned to her room. She suddenly felt a bit worried. Had that man already left? It wasn't until she entered the door and saw him that she let out a sigh of relief. Song Qing-shu said, "My previous words were full of loopholes. I could only say that in a hurry. However, I'm afraid that there will be a lot of gossip about you in the future." Yulun sighed. "If you weren't here today, I would have ended up in an even worse state. So many people barged in and saw me and Kublai. Just thinking about it makes me shudder." Seeing her tremble, Song Qing-shu reached out and hugged her. He patted her gently and comforted her. "It's all in the past now." Princess Yulun bit her lip and suddenly said, "Actually, the sun hasn't risen yet." Chapter 24:03. She didn't know why she blurted out these words. It was really not in line with her usual temperament. After thinking about it, she could only numb herself with the promise between them. After tonight, they would have nothing to do with each other, so it didn't matter if she indulged herself a little tonight. She had been lonely all these years and hadn't felt like yesterday for a long time. Song Qing-shu was stunned for a moment and immediately understood what she meant. Looking at her pink and plump face, he couldn't help but want to tease her. "Do you still want to wear a blindfold this time?" Princess Yulun's heart trembled. She bit her lip and rolled her eyes at him bitterly, but she still nodded stubbornly. "Yes." Song Qing-shu laughed, picked her up by her legs, and slowly walked to the couch on the side. After a long time, Princess Yulun collapsed on the couch. Seeing the smile on the man's face, she couldn't help but feel ashamed and angry. "What are you laughing at?" Song Qing-shu tidied her messy hair with his fingertips and replied, "I'm lamenting that good women are the easiest to be corrupted." Bah! If she had heard such a joke on a normal day, Yulun would definitely have been angry. But now, she just spat at him coquettishly. Her anger had long been vented. "What's your next plan?" Song Qing-shu sighed. "That will depend on whether or not Wang Fei accepts me. If you accept me, then I will cultivate for a while at your place. If Wang Fei is heartless when it comes to dressing, then I can only find another place." No wonder people say you're a famous playboy. You really have a glib tongue. Yulun was so angry that she pinched him. "You're a great grandmaster. You can stay if you want. I can't drive you away. But if the master doesn't welcome me, there's no point in me staying." Song Qing-shu laughed mockingly. Yulun bit her red lips and turned her head to the side. "You can stay. Just don't show up and let others find you." After saying that, she couldn't help but murmur, "I'm crazy to keep a wanted criminal like you at home." Song Qing-shu didn't say anything. He just held her soft body in his arms and comforted her with his warm chest. Feeling the strong arms, Princess Yalowin was lost for a moment, as if she had returned to the days when she and her husband were newlyweds. Tears silently rolled down from the corner of her eyes. The two of them fell asleep in each other's arms. After a short nap, Princess Yalowin personally arranged a room next door and said, "You can stay there for the time being. I've made some staff changes in the mansion because of Tuoya. Now, no one is allowed to go near this yard. It should be safe for you to stay next door. You can eat with me, and I'll arrange for more food to be sent over." Song Qingshu suddenly leaned over with a drooling face. "What about bathing? Is he also with the princess? I don't know why Princess Xiao Min would like someone like you." Princess Yalowin spat on the ground. Song Qingshu quietly looked at her. "Is Wang Fei jealous?" Princess Yalowin blushed slightly. "I'm not a little girl. Why would I be jealous?" Song Qingshu then said seriously, "I may have to go out later. I'll let you know first." "Why are you going out at this time?" Yalowin exclaimed. "There are some things that need to be done." Song Qingshu's mind was also heavy. "Don't worry. With Wang Fei's help yesterday, my injuries have recovered slightly. I have no problem protecting myself. Even if I am captured, I will not reveal our relationship." "Who helped you?" Thinking of how she helped him last night, Princess Yalowin's heart was still beating wildly. "Besides, I'm not afraid of revealing that I saved you. After all, my identity is here. They can't kill me, can they?" After saying that, she warned, "Then you be careful. I have a lot of things to do here. I'll be leaving first." Too many things had happened in the estate yesterday, and there was a lot of mess that she had to clean up. But after a few steps, she frowned. Her legs were sore and her cheeks flushed. She quickened her steps as if she was running away. Song Qingshu cautiously walked to the street. He wanted to find out more about Guo Jing. If they were still caught, then all the sacrifices yesterday would have been in vain. Apart from that, there was also a huge hidden danger that needed to be eliminated in the palace. Temujin smashed the wooden table next to him into pieces. "Not only did we fail to capture Song Qingshu and Yonghua, but we also lost Heezer and Nachin, my younger brother, and the new chief of the Hongjira tribe. Hongjila had just lost their chief, Wichun, and now the new chief, Nachin, was dead. How many of the brothers were left? If this continued, Hongjila would be in chaos, especially since Huajing's marriage was the cause." At that moment, Temujin really wanted to kill someone, but he couldn't help coughing in his excitement. Looking at the blood on his palm, he frowned and thought that he needed to add more girls. Beside him, the Tongtian shaman noticed his hand, and a hint of a smile flashed across his eyes, but he quickly concealed it. Li Qimei, who was sitting below, reported, "Last night's operation was very smooth at first, but then the people chasing Song Qingshu were killed by master swordsmen, and the troops chasing Guo Jing suddenly lost track of their target. I suspect that someone in the city is secretly helping them." "Did the Ryong Palace make any strange movements?" Temujin asked in a low voice. Li Qimei replied, "The Ryong Palace sent quite a few people, but they are all under our surveillance and did not come into contact with Song Qingshu." "Then who would have the guts to do this?" Temujin's face darkened as he looked at Naya. "Have you found out the cause of death of Heezer and Nachin?" Naya shook his head. "Both of them died very strangely. There were no obvious wounds on their bodies, and we need a coroner to investigate further. But after all, they are of high status. If we conduct an autopsy, the bodies will inevitably be damaged. I am worried that their families and subordinates." Temujin waved his hand. "Conduct an autopsy and tell them that I told you to find out who the murderer is. I will leave this matter to you." "Yes, sir." Naya's expression was solemn. This was not an easy task. Temujin then looked at Jin Bingyan. "How is the Devil Master now?" Jin Bingyan was still thinking about how Song Qingshu had been avoiding her like a ghost last night, and was a little annoyed. She hurriedly replied, "Nothing serious happened to my master. He will be fine after resting for a while at the palace of the Devil Master." "That's good." Temujin knew that Jin Bingyan would not tell him the truth about Pang Ban's injuries, so he turned to Ba Siba and Li Qimei. "Take your respective masters." The The task of capturing Song Qing-shu and Guo Jing will be yours. Helen City is only so big, and they are all foreigners. They can't just disappear into thin air. Suddenly, he looked around and couldn't help but exclaim, "Where is the Shui clan? Why don't I see him?" Chapter 2404. The people in the hall looked at each other. After a while, Li Qimei replied, "Great Khan, we haven't seen anyone from the Shui sect in the past 2 days. You didn't see him yesterday either?" Temujin asked in a low voice. "It was too chaotic yesterday. Maybe we didn't see him on the other routes." "We can ask if anyone saw him," Li Qimei answered. "The person who secretly saved Guijing and Song Qingshu last night was very mysterious. Could it be him?" The speaker was a fat tantric monk. The most eye-catching thing about him was that his head was extremely flat. A normal person's head would more or less have a curve, but the top of his head was extremely flat, as if it had been smacked by a frying pan. He was Ba Siba's favorite disciple. He had inherited all of Ba Siba's teachings, and there were even rumors that his martial arts were no weaker than his master's. The hall suddenly fell silent. Everyone frowned as they thought about the possibilities. Jin Bingyun, who was standing to the side, asked quietly, "Do you have any evidence for your speculation?" Yang Lianjin explained, "Because of the incident with Western Xia, this person knew that it would be difficult for him to be put in an important position in Mongolia. Then, he failed in the Gaochang labyrinth. Everyone knew that his future was over, so it's normal for him to want to rebel. Plus, his martial arts are very high, which fits the description of the mysterious person who saved Guijing last night. That's why I suspect him. The Shui sect is famous for their sword techniques, but the person who saved Song Qingshu last night used a sword." Jin Bingyun had no relationship with the Shui sect. She only spoke up for him because she didn't want anyone else to take the blame for her. When one's martial arts reach a certain level, what's the difference between using a sword and a saber? Yang Lianjin continued. Even if he didn't save Song Qingshu, he could have saved Guijing and the others. May I ask what kind of relationship I have with Guijing and the others? Why would I take such a big risk to save him? Suddenly, a voice came. Everyone turned around and saw the tall figure of the Shui sect walk in. It was Song Qingshu. He had already realized from Yulun that the identity of the Shui sect would bring him trouble. This was another important reason why he let Kublai go. Of course, he could just disappear and make the Water Moon sect disappear without a trace. But in the future, he would need to use this identity for something, so he couldn't let it go to waste. "Where did you go before?" Temujin's eyes were sinister and vicious, as if he would give the order to kill Temujin at the slightest disagreement. The Tontian shaman, on the other hand, had a playful look in his eyes. He did not understand why Song Qingshu would come at this time. And what was even more surprising was that the speed at which Song Qingshu was recovering was far beyond his expectations. "I was injured earlier, so I found a place to recuperate. That's why I'm late." Song Qingshu didn't dare say that he was recuperating at home. He was afraid that these people had gone to his home to look for him. "Oh, how did you get injured?" Hearing that he was injured, everyone involuntarily tensed up, their auras locked onto him. Song Qingshu pointed to Tontian Wu, who was sitting on the wall and watching from afar, and said, "After witnessing the Great Khan's heroism yesterday, I yearned for the realm of the Great Grandmaster very much. I was enlightened and secretly challenged Cult Master. Unfortunately, Cult Master's divine power was unparalleled, and I was still no match for him, so I was slightly injured." Challenged Cult Master? Everyone turned to look at the Tontian shaman. How could he not understand Song Qingshu's intentions? If he denied it now, Song Qingshu would definitely expose him on the spot. With no other choice, he gritted his teeth and admitted, "Yes, he came to challenge me last night." "Then why didn't you say so earlier?" Temujin was obviously dissatisfied. The Tontian shaman replied, "Because it's not a glorious thing, so I didn't say it." "Not glorious?" Temujin continued to ask. The Tontian shaman gritted his teeth and said, "Because I was also slightly injured in yesterday's match, so I didn't think it was glorious." Now that Temujin and the sorcerer were both injured, it would be too much of an eyesore for him to be unscathed. Everyone present gasped. Even Jean Bingyan blinked and looked at Song Qingshu. She couldn't believe that this person, who had once fled and was easily defeated by Fu Kalin, could injure the Tongtian shaman. You were injured by him? Temujin didn't believe it either. The Tongtian shaman replied, last night, when I was fighting with Song Qingshu, my breath was not in the right place. When the Shueihua clan came to find me, I didn't think too much of it. Who knew that they would become much stronger, so I was slightly injured. Song Qingshu also replied in a timely manner. You are too humble, cult master. If you had not shown mercy yesterday, I would have lost my life. Hearing the implied meaning in his words, the Tongtian shaman snorted but didn't refute it. Temujin's anger turned to joy. Ha ha, it's a good thing that a great master has made a breakthrough by watching a battle. I hope that in the future, Mongolia will have another grandmaster, huh? Before, he had been cold to the Shueihua clan, but after learning that the Tongtian shaman's strength had increased, his attitude immediately changed. This was how Mongolia was. Everything was determined by strength. Of course, another reason why he was so happy was that he learned that the Tongtian shaman had also been injured. Now that he knew that the Tongtian shaman had also been injured, he could finally relax. At this time, the imperial preceptor Ba Siba opened his mouth. Last night, Song Qingshu escaped under such circumstances. The Great Khan and the Evil Master were both injured, and even the Cult Master was affected. This person is so young, it is truly frightening. Imperial Preceptor, there is no need to overestimate the morale of others and diminish your own. Last night, Song Qingshu used a forbidden technique similar to the great art of demonic disintegration, which is why he was able to temporarily unleash such a high level of combat power. This type of sorcery is extremely damaging to the body, and I'm afraid it will take him a long time to recover. On the other hand, the Great Khan, the Evil Master, and the others will be able to recover in a short period of time after recuperation. Everyone in the hall agreed. Only the Tongtian shaman's eyes flashed as he stared at Song Qingshu, who seemed to be completely fine. He thought to himself, this guy doesn't look like he was injured at all. Temujin said, no matter what, this boy must not be left alive, so I will have to trouble the two of you to find him. The Shueihua clan, you will cooperate with them as well. As you command. Song Qingshu, Li Qimei, and the others accepted the order. They wanted to use this opportunity to find Guijing and the others. Report, the fourth prince has arrived. A warrior came to report. Temujin's face darkened. Let him in. The others were about to leave, but Temujin signaled for them not to. You are all my most trusted people. There is no need to hide from you. Kublai ran in and bowed, but before he could say anything, Temujin asked, what were you doing at the monk residence last night? Kublai's face was also gloomy. He had wanted to get something, but in the end, he didn't get anything. He hurriedly reported what happened last night. Tuoya, a maid is so daring? Temujin snorted. Were you alone with Yaluin? Who else was there? A layer of cold sweat appeared on Kublai's forehead. I don't remember. Temujin's face was livid. From today onwards, you are not allowed to go to the monk residence. Also, take out 2,000 households from your fief and give them to the Hongji tribe. Originally, he wanted to give them to Yaluin's family, but he felt that such an arrangement would make people's imaginations run wild, so he changed his mind. Also, go pay your respects to your mother. It's about time she took care of the mess in your family. Chapter 2405. The mother Temujin referred to as Talyui's concubine, Talyui Teni. She was also the mother of Mungo, Kublai, Zulwu, and Ali Buj. When Talyui died in an accident, she took care of her orphaned children and widowed mother. Not only did she protect her family business, but she also maintained a good relationship with the other kings of Mongolia. After the deaths of Ogdi and Guiyu, she successfully won the position of heir to the throne. Of course, there were also rumors that she had a hand in the deaths of Ogdi and Guiyu, but no one had any proof. Temujin later publicly ordered that no one was allowed to talk about this matter, so everyone kept quiet. Kublai knelt down and accepted the decree. Yes, Great Khan. The punishment this time was very heavy. 2,000 households was a lot of wealth. In the Mongolian Empire, there were only 95 nobles who had more than 1,000 households. Of course, this punishment was not really serious, and it was still within the acceptable range. But Kublai was not happy at all. If he had really slept with his sister-in-law Yaluan last night, it would have been worth it even if he had to pay 2,000 households. But he clearly did not do anything last night, and now he had to bear such a bad reputation. There was no way he could clear his name. Temujin paused for a moment, then continued. Naya, send him over later. Be sure to tell Talyuiteni to teach him well. Yes. Naya cupped his hands and accepted the order. The group continued to discuss some other matters. Then Temujin waved his hand to dismiss the meeting. He was obviously tired and needed to go back to heal. The Tontian shaman looked meaningfully at Song Qing-shu and left. Li Qimei and Ba Siba continued to search for the whereabouts of Guo Jing and the others. Song Qing-shu also wanted to follow them and asked for some information, but was pulled aside by Naya. How is the sect master's injury? Song Qing-shu was surprised. The Shueihua sect did not seem to have a personal relationship with him, but he still answered, It's all right. The sect master showed mercy, so it's not a big deal. Then you can fight? Naya's face lit up. I can barely make a move, but if I encounter a peak expert, I'm afraid I won't be able to handle him. Song Qing-shu replied with some hesitation. Although he now had the ability to protect himself, if he encountered a great grandmaster, he could only run away. Originally, he wanted to pretend to be more seriously injured, but he was worried that people would think of him. Naya hurriedly said, Then I'll have to ask for your help. Song Qing-shu smiled and said, You're too polite. Go ahead. The other party's status was equivalent to the leader of the Mongolian Imperial Army. Having a good relationship with him would always be more beneficial than detrimental. In the past, he had a good relationship with Dolong, Song Gotu, and the others in the Qing court, so it was very convenient for him to do anything. Naya looked around, then lowered his voice and said, Grand Elder, can you accompany me to the Thunder Palace later? Song Qing-shu knew that he was talking about sending Kublai there. He was surprised and said, It should be easy for you to send the fourth prince there. Is his mother that scary? It's not that Queen Keeley is scary, but... Naya paused, then said, Grand Elder, you've only been here for a short time. Every king here has recruited a group of strange people, many of whom are from the dark sect. Queen Keeley has a group of them, of course. The most mysterious one is the evil king, Shiji Xuan. Shiji Xuan? Song Qing-shu had a strange expression on his face. Then does he have a beautiful daughter named Shi Qingxian? Shi Qingxian? Naya was confused and shook his head. I've never heard of him, and I don't think he has any children. Oh. Song Qing-shu was a little disappointed. What a pity. Naya continued. The evil king is the leader of the Butian Pavilion and the Flower Room, one of the 3 sects and 6 schools of the dark sect. It is said that his martial arts are almost as good as Pang Ban's. Almost as good as Pang Ban's? Song Qing-shu frowned. He might not be able to handle it now. You are the commander of the Xie Shui army, and you are under the Great Khan's orders. Do you think Shiji Xuan would dare to attack you? Naya smiled bitterly and pointed at his head. Under normal circumstances, no one would dare, but this guy is not normal. He's always talking and acting strangely. He can't be judged by common sense. So please come with me, Grand Elder, so I can be more confident. Li Qimei and Ba Siba's positions were too high, and they had heavy responsibilities, so it was not appropriate for him to invite them. Compared to them, the Shueihua clan was more relaxed. All right then. Song Qing-shu also wanted to see the legendary evil king, as well as the Orohatini who made the sea lose its way. Naya was overjoyed. I will remember Grand Elder's kindness. If there's anything I can help you with in the future, just let me know. You're too kind, General. Song Qing-shu thought to himself, if you knew that all my help is a heinous crime, you would probably regret saying that. Not long after, Kublai also came out. Clearly, he had been reprimanded by Temujin for a while, and his face was very ugly. Naya stepped forward and said, "Fourth Marquis, please." Kublai looked at Song Qing-shu, obviously surprised that he was there, but he did not say anything. Now that he was going to his mother's room to reflect on his mistakes, who knew how he would be reprimanded? Ah, as the Hans say, lust is like a knife on top of a man's head. Seeing his dejected look, Song Qing-shu felt a little embarrassed. He was the one who enjoyed it, but he was the one who took the blame. It was not very nice of him. Along the way, the streets were very quiet. Helen City was not as lively as it usually was, but there were still many merchants on the road. After all, they were capturing a Han, and it had nothing to do with them. Because of the frequent exchanges with the West, Mongolia was very focused on commerce. Many Western merchants even held important positions in the Mongolian government. The Mongolian nobles would cooperate with the merchants, and even the Khan would give his own money to the merchants to invest. Song Qing-shu had heard of all this before, but he did not have much of an impression of it. Even now, when the entire city was searching for criminals, these merchants were not affected at all. He could not help but think that with the financial knowledge of this era, there seemed to be another way to deal with the Mongols. Soon, they arrived at the Tuli Palace. Compared to the palaces of Kublai and Ali Buj, this place was much more deserted. However, the grandeur was still there, and one could still vaguely see the glory of the past. Sulyahetani looked like an ordinary Mongolian woman, and there was even a hint of kindness in her eyes. However, those who were familiar with this period of history would know that she was actually a ruthless character. Compared to the dignified beauty of Yulin and the glamorous beauty of the sea, she looked much more ordinary. Of course, she must have been a beauty when she was young, but now she still looked like a middle-aged woman, but her charm was still there. Of course, Song Qing-shu did not have any thoughts about women of her age. His attention was completely focused on the man behind her. It was a melancholic and handsome middle-aged man. He had a unique charm that was mixed with decadence. His handsome face and elegant long hair gave him a fatal charm. It was different from Pang Ban's evil and aggressive charm. His charm seemed to be much more gentle, but there was also a sense of calm in the midst of storm. At this moment, he was still massaging Sulyahetani's shoulders as if he did not see the person who came in. His expression was so intimate that it did not seem like a normal master and servant. Song Qing-shu could not help but look at Kublai. There was a man cuckolding your father in front of you, and you did not react at all. Chapter 24:06. Who would have thought that Kublai did not show any signs of surprise and immediately greeted Sulyahetani? Naya, on the other hand, seemed to be used to this and did not show any signs of surprise. Song Qing-shu was amazed at how open-minded the Mongolians were. Does Temujin not care about this guy who cuckolded his son? Wait, I don't think I have a right to say this. Naya conveyed Temujin's message, and Sulyahetani nodded. Thank you. I will take good care of him during this time. Thank you, Princess. Naya was about to leave when the man behind Sulyahetani suddenly raised his head and looked at Song Qing-shu. You are the Shueiwei Grandmaster? Song Qing-shu was surprised. Sulyahetani did not even look at me. Why is a man so interested in me? Yes, you are the evil king, Shirji Xuan. I am just an idle middle-aged man. How can I be called the evil king? The man's tone was lonely. I heard that you once lost to Fu Kalen in one move, but looking at you now, I don't believe that you would lose in one move. Fu Kalen is a man, not a god. De Zong has had a breakthrough recently. Yesterday, he challenged the head of the Tongtian sorcerer sect and even injured him a little. Naya thought about how Shirji Xuan had accompanied him here and wanted to return the favor, so he took the opportunity to flatter Shirji Xuan. You injured the Tongtian sorcerer sect? Shirji Xuan's eyes lit up as he looked at Naya with a fanatical look. Song Qing-shu's heart skipped a beat. That was because the sect leader showed mercy. Shirji Xuan snorted coldly. With his martial arts, even if he showed mercy, no ordinary person can hurt him. As soon as he finished speaking, his figure disappeared from where he was and instantly reappeared in front of Song Qing-shu to attack him. His movement technique was fast and strange. Compared to Li Qimei's heavenly enchantment, he was not at a disadvantage at all. Naya was shocked. De Zong is also injured. It is not fair for the evil king to attack now. However, Shi Zhishuan remained unmoved and continued to attack Song Qing-shu. Song Qing-shu groaned inwardly and hurriedly drew out the water moon saber and swung it. At his cultivation level, the saber and sword were interlinked. The timing and angle of this saber strike could be said to be perfect. Clearly, Shi Zhikong was also shocked by the exquisiteness of this attack. With a twist of his body, he appeared in another location out of nowhere. Song Qing-shu was secretly amazed. This guy's phantasmal body movement skill was indeed treacherous and fleeting. As he thought about it, the knife was pulled back. Now that he was seriously injured, he did not want to fight with his opponent's inner force, so he could only use exquisite moves to resolve it. Shi Zhishuan was also stunned. He did not expect that Happy would change his attack in such a manner. This slash gave him a feeling that he could not avoid it. Of course, it was not a problem for him to retreat at this moment. However, he was a prideful person. When he heard that his opponent was injured, if he continued to attack and was forced to retreat, he would not be able to bring himself to do so. Therefore, he formed a seal with both hands and directly used the empty-handed blade grab. Song Qing-shu wondered if he should take advantage of the situation to amputate one of his arms, since he didn't have that otherworldly daughter in this world anyway. Just as he was hesitating, he suddenly felt that the innate chi on his blade was leaking out, and his opponent's strength seemed to have increased by several points. Dark North Divine Art? Song Qing-shu was startled, but he quickly noticed the difference. The opponent should have a special method to transform the enemy's strength for his own use. It was not the Dark North Divine Art or the Absorbing Star's Great Technique, but similar to the Heaven and Earth Great Shift and the Big Dipper. However, Song Qing-shu had fought with Zhang Wuji and Murong Bo many times, so he already had experience. With a flick of his wrist, the blade broke through the opponent's mysterious force field from a special angle. Shi Zhishuan had already returned to his original position. He could not help but exclaim, "Your bladesmanship is really simple and mysterious. You actually broke my immortal pressing art in this way." He knew that his opponent was injured, so he did not use his full strength. Seeing that he could not defeat his opponent in 3 moves, he stopped. Song Qing-shu smiled. "I have long heard that the evil king's immortal pressing art is amazing. Today I see that it is indeed worthy of its reputation." Shi Zhishuan's face had been filled with warmth earlier, but at this moment he suddenly laughed coldly. "Today, you're injured, so I'll spare your life. Next time, when you've recovered, we'll have a good fight." Song Qing-shu was speechless. Why did this guy's expression change so suddenly? Of course he knew that his opponent was holding back, but he was too arrogant. At this time, Lahedani, who had been watching from the side, came out to resolve the awkward atmosphere. "You two have just let me see a wonderful fight. How can there be no wine in such a situation? Come, prepare wine and dishes." Naya hurriedly said, "Thank you, princess, but we still have a mission to complete. We will not disturb you any longer." "I see. Thank you for your hard work." Lahedani did not want to keep them. "Then next time when there is a chance, I will be the host." Of course. Naya smiled apologetically, then pulled Song Qing-shu away. On the way out, Song Qing-shu was a little curious. "Why do I feel that you are a little afraid of this place?" Naya looked around, then leaned over and said in a low voice, "Don't be fooled by the princess's benevolent look, but, how to put it, there are rumors that she has secretly set up a shadow government. All these years, anyone who does not get along with her will die silently." Song Qing-shu asked tentatively, "I heard that the sudden death of Ogdi and Gyu had something to do with her." Naya's expression changed. "This is not something you can talk about." He paused, feeling that this was a little too formal, then added, "Ogdi and his people did blame her, because OGDI's cook was later investigated to be a distant relative of hers. But this is not conclusive evidence, and the Khan ordered that this matter should not be discussed anymore, so the matter was left unsettled. Oh, Song Qing-shu had an understanding look on his face. Naya continued, "This time, I asked you to accompany me mainly to guard against that madman. Who knows if he will suddenly attack like a lunatic." "You mean the evil king, Shiji Xuan?" Song Qing-shu asked. Naya nodded and pointed to his head. "There is something wrong with him here. You have seen it just now. Sometimes, he can change into a different person in an instant, and it can be extremely dangerous. He does not care about anything. If it were not for you today, it would be me who has to face that madman's attack." Song Qing-shu said curiously, "I think his relationship with the princess is not ordinary." Naya's expression was also a little strange. King Taoyui has been dead for so many years, and the princess is in the prime of her life. It is hard to resist some temptations. Song Qing-shu was surprised. "Does the Khan not care?" Naya shook his head. "It is not uncommon in Mongolia. Moreover, the princess's father is the Khan's sworn brother and once saved the Khan's life. Her mother is also one of the Khan's concubines. Naturally, the Khan is more lenient towards her than others." Song Qing-shu listened in a daze for a long time before he came to his senses. It turned out that after Tulatini's father died in battle, Temujin took his mother into his harem and married her to his son Taoyui. After sorting out the relationship, he could only sigh. The circle of nobles is really messy. Naya continued, "Right, I still have to go to the Ruyang Palace for inspection. I will treat you to a drink some other day." You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.